Modern battle. It worked. It worked really good. Mind you, they're not all good pitchers.
Helen, are they moving the order?
People do for other things.
I'm sorry? He's in Glen Rose for like a work conference or something. He's not here.
Hi, good evening. To start, I really want to go over tonight. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that you want to sign up for me, and you will have your 3 minutes to speak on those items on your that you have listed. We're going to start tonight with our invocation, and Councilman Hopkins will lead us.
Holy Father, we thank you for the blessing of this day that you've given to us. We thank you, Father, for all those that have turned out this evening to be a part of their community. We pray, Father, that you would give counsel wisdom, discernment, guide and direct us as we make these decisions this evening, Father, that we might make our community a better place to live for all the people that live here, and we might consider all the issues and give fair and equal judgment to all before we render decisions. We pray, Father, for your guidance in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. 31, call meeting to order. And we'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
So, number 2 tonight is reports, presentations, and proclamations, and the planning department update.
Mayor, most of the items we have for updates are on the agenda tonight. So I don't really have anything. I don't want to take up too much time with this unless you have specific questions about anything. All right, thank you.
To be Planning and Zoning Commission. Report from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Meeting Council, So many of the items on your agenda this evening, we addressed earlier this month on the 2nd. We had all commissioners in attendance. We had 3 items to vote on of note. The first is a variance request regarding the tree drip line. That was approved unanimously by the whole commission. We felt as though, I guess I can only speak freely for myself, but as the discussion was going on and how we voted, we really enjoyed the letter that applicant provided from the arborist, providing a lot of information there. The second item was a special use permit for a water booster station. This was approved with conditions, and this was and it was ultimately approved, but it was a fairly split vote. I believe the vote was 4-3. So some of those conditions are within your agenda as well that we felt would move forward with that booster pump station. And then the third item is the PDD for McCarty Ranch. This was also approved with conditions, also a split vote from the commission as well. This one, it came across our desk about 3 times. The list was very long of the amount of variances that were requested from the very beginning. It was shortened a little bit that second time, and then very, very dwindled down the third time that we felt as though it was okay to move on to you guys for approval of conditions. I'll be here all evening, so if you guys have any questions of kind of what our thoughts were while we were discussing earlier this month, we're more than happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you.
All right, regular agenda items. 3A, discuss and consider approval of an ordinance of the city of Bulverde, Texas, amending the budget fiscal year 2025-2026, repealing conflicting ordinance, providing a severability clause, providing an effective date.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Staff would like to move some funds from the operating reserve fund, the budget money numbers, to the general fund, the professional services, to do an attorney professional review of our process and procedures to the tune of $30,000. That's what we're thinking it should be. Yeah.
Commissioner Hayes, any questions?
No, I'm just wondering if we're ready for motion. I mean, we talked about this in our budget. It was discussed, and it's just kind of, we said that when we were ready, that we would come forth and do this.
Move it around.
It's just kind of a process.
I move we approve an ordinance of the city of Bulverde, Texas, amending the fiscal year 2025-26 budget, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date to reallocate operating reserve budget funds to the professional services attorney professional review expense line item.
I'll second it.
All right, we'll go ahead and take a vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
No public comment on it?
Oh,
You know what?
we can. It wasn't on here, but we can.
Yeah, we didn't have that. Mike?
Anybody sign up?
Sorry, we have somebody sitting in for our city secretary today.
That's 3A.
There is. Mr. Martin.
Somebody sign up.
Oh, I got it. Sorry, got done.
Yeah.
For 3A. So we gotta do.
Correct.
Could we get speakers at the podium and speak into the microphones or everyone can hear? Turn something up. Can't hear that.
Thank you.
At the podium.
Now they're talking about the podium.
At the podium, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not.
but they just want to speak into
It's
it.
not on.
It may not be turned on. There we go. Thank you for letting us know. Everything's loud up here.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Tom Hackelman. My question on this is this a specific department overview? Is it, what's the $30,000? What is the allocation for $30,000 for a single line item for attorney's fees is pretty significant, I would think, and I just curious about the line item. Is this, is there a specific department? Is it planning, zoning? Is it staff? Is it what? I think the public would like to know.
Would you like an answer?
No, I'll answer that. This is a police department policy review.
Do we need to redo the vote?
Yes, we have to redo the whole motion before we call.
Okay. I move that we approve an ordinance of the city of Bulverde, Texas, amending fiscal year 2025-2026 budget, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing a severability clause, and providing an effective date for the reallocation of operating reserve budget funds to the professional services, attorney professional review expense line item.
Yeah, I second that.
Now, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, 3D. Hold a public hearing, consider the approval of an ordinance granting a variance to section 17.06.0105 of the City of Bulverde Code of Ordinance related to tree protection measure requirements at 2541, 2545, and 2549 Verde Road, Verde, Texas 78162.
Mayor and council, before we begin, I do not have a conflict of interest under Texas Local Government Code. However, the applicants are the landlords at my place of business, and the affected property is where my business is located. I am recusing myself from deliberation and vote on this matter with the appearance of a conflict of interest, and hereby recuse myself. I have completed an affidavit to that effect prior to the start of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mayor and members of City Council, this request, on my back report here. This request is similar to a request that you considered, I believe, back in July, and denied. However, while the previous request was more general, requesting an authorization across the site, the applicant sharpened his pencil and presented a plan showing specifically where they'll be seeking variances. So specifically, they're looking for a variance to our provisions that prohibit certain work within the drip line of a tree, and also require certain work like roads and parking lots to stay at least 5 feet away from the trunk of a tree. On the current instance, they are asking for variances for areas where infrastructure already exists in those zones, just so that they can bring those improvements up to snuff. Old roads, old retaining walls, bring them back up to snuff. And I'll, this picture and the next one shows the specific areas of the site where they're seeking authorizations to perform work without a variance. Each of these areas would have to be a pervious pavement type, like decomposed granite or something. And the applicant's contending that that would be difficult to structure a driveway with that many exceptions to it. And so I'm going to let the applicant go over their request in more detail.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Council. Thank you for this time to speak with everybody, staff. Thank you, Mr. Batts. I am the applicant on the project, and I would say we did quite a bit more than pencil sharpening, if I can be frank. When we were here in July, it was a broad brush. We were asking for a broad variance to impact trees because of the scope. Well, since that time, we listened to you, and we listened to comments, and we hired an arborist who's well respected and gave a very thorough analysis at a great cost to come in and provide best practices for us to do this right. And the result is that we specifically narrowed down the scope that we're asking for to a specific number of trees for a specific purpose. And honestly, that purpose is because we have to provide EMS access. and we have to provide water quality controls. We don't have a choice. We got to do that. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to put those infrastructure requirements that are required by the code in the least obstructive places possible. If you can see on the map, you can see our detention facilities have these quirky shapes. It would have been much easier to put a rectangle there, but we would have to take down trees. And at a greater cost, we tried to avoid these trees and create these wonky shapes to try to fit in with the natural topography. That's an example of something where we're going out of our way to try to take the tree into account. We are trying to pave over surfaces that are already there. So this variance request is really because the city council has decided the highest and best use of this property is commercial by ordinance. And as you're well aware, a commercial project has to provide certain infrastructure. And that infrastructure includes EMS, drive access to each building, and stormwater controls. We don't have a choice. We got to put those in. And if we can't put them in, we can't have a commercial project, and really nobody can. The flip side of that is there's 650 trees on this property. It's an urban forest, and we are trying really, really hard to navigate all of those and create a path of least obstruction, but to make this a viable project. And it's just as a final consideration, which I think is a worthy consideration, the people behind this project, they live here in this community. This isn't a developer that's come in from out of town and is trying to capitalize and take advantage of this community. This is a family that lives here and is raising kids and is trying to do something to make this the type of place where other families want to live. They're trying to do right by this project and follow the rules. And that's why we're asking you to take that into account and to approve this variance. Without it, I just don't see how not only this project, but any commercial project is going to be able to be developed on this property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody from the applicant want to say anything else? All right.
You want to?
Do we have anybody specifically? Go ahead. I was wondering if there was anybody specifically that would be addressing questions regarding the trees.
As far as, you can ask the applicants any questions about the trees.
All right. Okay. Very good. I have a number of questions about trees.
I'm going to ask a public comment first. So we have one person, Mr. Mike.
Mike Barron.
Oh, Mike Barron.
I'm so sorry, sir. I couldn't read that.
Mayor, I'm a 47-year resident of Boulevardy Hills. My place backs up to this development, and there's 7 other neighbors that back up to it. And the Cooks really seem to be going out of their way to do things right. They left the green belt. They're going to put a fence up for us, and they're trying to cut as few trees down as possible. They seem to be trying to do things the right way. And I'm the Architectural Review Committee for Boulevardy Landowners Association. I've been doing that for 38 years. And seeing people put in their driveways and maneuver around trees. I haven't seen any problems with putting driveways or flat work over some of the drip line. I didn't see a problem with that. I've never had that problem before, even question. And I'd like to see this variance be approved.
Thank you, sir.
Start with Councilman.
So I'm going to address these questions specifically about the trees themselves. I read through the arborist evaluation, and I significantly appreciate the significance of the task that you have in dealing with all these trees. So three things that immediately occurred to me that I didn't see as a part of the Arborist evaluation. The first was the issue of oak decline. There was no speaking of any of the trees. Some of the trees weren't deemed to be probably not viable, but as far as an evaluation of oak decline on the property, I didn't see any mention of that. The second, I saw no mention of root inoculation service after construction, which would improve the viability of the trees. And I didn't see an oak wilt evaluation as a part of the arborist. So general things there, in reading it, caused me to have three questions. Question one, what commitments and practices will be made during construction to ensure the long-term viability of the trees so that they won't be impacted if we would grant this variance? That's question one.
Thank you for your question. As part of the city code, this project is required to be performed under the supervision of the certified arborist. And we are going to do whatever she tells us to do and whatever the code requires. If she tells us to inoculate the roots and we have a tree care protection plan, which is going to be part of the permitting process, which is going to come later, we are going to do that. We're going to do everything the law asks us to do in the city code and the arborist asks us to do to try to preserve these trees.
Okay, so my second question was who specifically would be responsible for the ongoing management of the trees that are affected during and after construction? And you're saying that would be the arborist. So the arborist is engaged pre and post construction to ensure the long-term viability of the trees.
That's correct.
All right. So finally, what guarantee of probability of success has the arborist given you if this variance was granted?
Probability of
success. In other words, how many of these trees do you think will survive construction of the trees involved in the variance? 50%, 25%, 100%? What number?
I can answer that. Except I don't really have an answer. We didn't talk in terms of probability. I walked the job site a couple of times, but I'm pretty confident that minimal impacts that we're like. Thank you. My name is Chisholm Cook. I'm one of the general partners in the project. I am Neil's neighbor, as Eric pointed out. We didn't talk in terms of probabilities, Councilman Hawkins, but she was very confident with the minimal impact in the vast majority of cases, especially on the new construction, that they're going to be just fine. They're well-established trees. And then as pertains to the existing infrastructure, the driveway on the screen there coming in from left to right, and where the loop begins and forks right and left, the right-hand side, that's an existing unpaved driveway, heavily compacted. She feels that the 12-inch impervious cover versus the 30-plus inch impervious cover as required by code will be much more protective. I don't have a percentage for you, sir, but she felt pretty good about it. And we didn't ask for oak wilt and some of the other things you mentioned, but we walked the whole property. She didn't see any. I would imagine if she had concerns about that, she'd raise them.
Yeah, we hope so. But
yeah,
those conditions will influence the success of what happens here when you start the construction.
She did outline for us a few things that she wants us to do. I thought they were in the letter, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't reread it today.
Yeah, there were a few things there. I just
yes, sir.
really didn't have the level of detail that I was expecting.
Well, I think in part it's because, to Eric's point, we will have an arborist on site. We're not asking for an exemption or a variance from that portion of the ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
The drip line impact requirement and impervious rather than pervious cover for the driveway.
I think the only other issue that I saw was regarding the drip line. I think comment was that there's this citing 1 foot per inch rule that aligns with critical root zone definition. I think that definition, if I recall, is appropriate for trees who already have an impacted root system because of one of those conditions that you described there, either previous asphalt or things like that. But I'm not sure that that's generally used when a tree has not been impacted regarding its drip line.
She provided a bunch of scientific citations that
She
seem
did.
to indicate
She
otherwise.
did. I don't know that, and I know that in the city of Austin, they are using that. But Austin is a much more urban area than Bulverde.
Yes, sir. But as Eric pointed out, this is an urban forest, right?
If I may, that's a great question. We completely disregarded the ask to recognize the critical root zone from this variance application. We are sticking to the drip line. We're sticking to the Bulverde code. So we are not asking for recognition of that or that to be a factor in this variance whatsoever. It was her opinion, but we're the applicant, and we selected that out from our request.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it is crystal clear to me that the applicant has gone above and beyond to meet the sole purpose of why we even have a tree ordinance. I mean, it's obvious that these people love the tree. There's no way you develop this property or lay out the driveway any different to impact the low amount of trees that these people are impacting. I mean, it's impossible. I mean, by right, they could have just came in here and built a big square building and taken out all the trees by right because it's in the building footprint, but they chose to preserve the natural hill country forest. And you know, I've walked this property. I've gone up there and I've walked it, and it is a forest, and there's existing blacktop, there's existing structure, there's a gravel drive that goes all the way around where this drive is. And a lot of this, there's existing feeder root structure poking out of the top of the ground. It was just below the surface. If you do pervious pavement, you're gonna have to go 32 inches down. That's gonna impact more trees than asphalt will ever impact. And you know, when they came back here before, he said, well, you don't have an arborist letter. So they go and get an arborist. They get an arborist letter, a well-respected arborist from the area, and she makes a very compelling argument. I mean, and when we were talking about the drip line, it says all construction and construction-related activity. I mean, you can't even park a truck under a tree, you can't park a trailer under a tree, you can't drive a skid steer under a tree. I mean, it's obvious that these people love the trees and have utmost confidence that they're going to take care of the trees after the project is finished.
Well, our concern was the trees would be impacted, so we went out and got a certified arborist come on and evaluate and buy off on it. That leads my concern, and that's really where I'm at on this. Pretty much took about every other word in my mouth, so really appreciate all the work and heavy lifting you've done to work with the city, and it clearly shows in this report and everything you've done. That's my position on it.
So my question is, if we're not using the 1/2 CRZ standard that was asked, what is the ask? How close are the drip line? How are you asking? Because your arborist report is centered around this 1/2 CRZ. And her sites, not a single link works. Not a single one. I dug into this and did the research. And you know what? I think our ordinance probably needs to be changed to a CRZ standard. I think that's probably more modern and, you know, more applicable. But her own stuff even says that that's the CRZ, 1 foot per caliper inch. It's the biologically appropriate minimum preservation distance. So if it's not that or the 1/2, what is it? What are we granting? No minimum? I just don't know, because is this a different ask than what came at P&Z? Did P&Z, were they asked, did I thought this had the CRZ standard at P&Z? Or did it change?
It hasn't changed.
It hasn't changed since P&Z.
No, describe it.
Absolutely, thank you. And thank you for your question. We are focused on the City of Bulverde Code. As you well know, talking to consultants, they're going to bring in outside, because they deal not only with this municipality, all over the place. So they're bringing in references from other places. Our ask is a variance to the drip line impact requirement under the City of Bulverde Code. That's our ask.
So they could build straight up to the trunk of the tree on your ass.
Yes, but I want to make it clear that we have identified many trees where there's already impact straight up to the
I
tree.
saw that, for sure.
So all we're asking, in fact, that's most of them. What we're asking is to be able to repurpose to improve those areas.
So the asphalt will be laid in the same location as where those are now,
Yeah,
essentially.
absolutely. Yeah, in accordance, with the plans you have. Absolutely.
I was just confused by that because I'm going off your arborist letter and I'm going through everything that your arborist says, and it's just conflicting what you're asking for. You see what I mean? That's why.
Well, what I would appreciate if you could focus on was our application letter, where I have it very specifically laid out. Really, I feel simply. I think I'm pretty good at laying out simple arguments, but maybe I'm wrong. Where I've laid out very simply what our ask is, and it's just the variance. I appreciate that she wanted to bring in the half critical. I used to enforce and manage all of the tree ordinances for the city of Austin for many years.
Yeah, I couldn't find anybody using it but Austin. And I got to tell you, it's not a very good sell to me when they just approve 1,800 square foot minimum lots where they'll allow 24 homes per acre.
Sure,
that's not going to work.
That's right, and that's not what we're trying to do. But I get because I worked with the arborist program and took people to court for the city of Austin for many years. I get the half critical. And I appreciate her putting in there. We are not asking for that. I appreciate the perspective. We are focused on City of Bulverde and its code and how it defines.
But your ask is actually more than half critical.
Yeah,
It's a drip line variance, huh?
It's a drip line variance. Yeah.
Well,
They still have to
yeah, but
Well, let me clarify.
Yeah.
I'm having a little bit of confusion here. So the city's ordinance says that you can't undertake almost any construction activity within the drip line of a tree. Then we have a list of items that are exempt from that. They're allowed to extend up to 5 feet. They can enter the drip line, but they have to stay 5 feet away from the trunk. And so what the applicant, and correct me if I'm wrong, is where existing infrastructure violates that standard. They want authorization to go in and modernize, upgrade, I don't know what the exact right word is, replace with newer infrastructure. If it's a compacted caliche driveway today, they want to go in and put in a blacktop driveway. And so are there areas on here where you're proposing new construction okay, so they're not proposing any new disturbances within the drip line areas. They're talking, well, within the 5 foot. So, yeah.
So everywhere that there's a road depicted on here, there's currently already a road?
No, sir. I can request one. Yeah. Councilman Hayes, there's multiple parts to the ordinance, right? Where there are existing road conditions, which is the main drive between the cave house and the maker.
And I saw those pictures.
Right.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
We have one tree in particular that has the 5 foot problem. So there's a specific request for that. As it pertains to the drip line versus the half critical root zone, all of the new construction is going to be outside of that half critical standard, which is part of why she wrote it the way she did. No arborist. That was my original ask, was we're going to try to comply with that. So we don't intend to get any closer than that. I'm not trying to undermine Eric's point earlier. We're just asking for a variance from the drip line and the ability to go with impervious versus pervious. Okay. But looking at the map right there, there's the fork where the loop begins is compacted existing driveway, not paved, but heavily worn. Goes up, I don't know, well, up parallel, I guess, with that first building, which is the house, right? The little house up there. And then basically that entire straightaway to where you see the shaded existing driveway, right, tying in. All that's existing. The rest of that loop is new. You can, okay, great, thank you, sir. Red dash. Red dash. Oh, yeah. So this to here or so is existing. Okay. probably to like right here is, this is the new stuff. You can see the minimal impacts, except for there, which those trees are dying, they're being taken out, we're not doing the ground back. All of this new construction, very minimally well outside of a half critical root zone standard. We just tried not to confuse matters by replacing one standard for the other, but we will be outside of that standard. I hope that helps. So yeah, the heaviest impacts, where we might be close to that, that's all existing pavement or existing unpaved drive.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion. I would like to make a motion to approve an ordinance granting a variance. Good. A motion to approve an ordinance granting a variance to section 17.06.010, paragraph 5 to the city of Bulverde Code of Ordinance related to the tree protection measure requirements at 2541, 2545, and 2549 Bulverde Road, Bulverde, Texas, 78163.
Second.
All right.
Go for it.
All right. Well done, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Receive. For the public hearing and consider the approval of an ordinance, City of Bulverde, Texas approving special use permit 1015 East Almond Road, First Texas, Street. Permit the operation of a water pumping station, amending the zoning ordinance, directing the amendment of the zoning map, repealing existing ordinances, providing a severability clause and an effective.
Mayor and members of City Council, this is a request for a water pumping station which requires a special use permit under our zoning ordinance. The site that you see here is at the lower southeast corner of the Goldsmith tract, being marketed as a Thornbrook development, immediately adjacent to Almond Road and the Persimmon Hill neighborhood. The item was discussed at the Planning and Zoning Commission. The commission recommended approval with the following conditions: that the maximum height of the water tank be no more than 25 feet at the dome reference line, which is basically the edge, and no more than 35 feet at the crown, the top of the tank, that the site have 8-foot tall concrete panel fencing around it, that the applicant has requested 2 tanks, but the P&Z is recommending authorization for only 1 tank, a 500,000 gallon tank, and no more than 2 pumps at the site. And then finally, again, what I mentioned, the tank can have no more than 500,000 gallons of capacity. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the applicant to present their case.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Aliscar Villarreal. I'm with local engineering firm Freeland Turk Engineering Group here on behalf of Texas Water Company. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. Texas Water Company is requesting this special use permit to allow for the construction of a booster pump station and associated ground storage tank in a site within the Goldsmith subdivision. This booster pump station is a critical piece of infrastructure necessary to ensure residents have reliable water service, namely within the city of Bulverde. Some of these include the Goldsmith subdivision, the Bell Oak subdivision, Glenwood, and Park Village, to name a few. There's more within the ETJ. And I want to reinforce the fact that this booster pump station is for existing conditions as it sits today for the existing customers on Texas Water system. P&Z had expressed some concerns, so the matter was tabled. We came back with some concessions, and we proposed a 8-foot concrete panel fencing for visual impacts and screening. Another concern was the noise of the pumps and the generator. So the pumps are going to be within a CMU block wall, sound attenuated building, and the generator as well. Tank height, so originally we proposed a larger tank in height. We conceded with a 25-foot tank to the dome reference line for a total of 35 foot, Danny mentioned. Safety, we touched on safety. You know, tanks are inspected annually and checked daily by operators. And why this location? It's at a operationally, it's operationally the best location for this. As you know about the Ammon Road water line, the 24-inch line on Ammon Road, it was the primary reason for it being installed was for operational redundancy for the subdivisions on the west side of the Bulverde area.
Your public hearing for this. So Richard Osborne.
Not quite so tall. First of all, thank you all for the opportunity to bring my concerns to you, my concerns. My wife and I live adjacent to the specific site that they want to have. And if I look out the side of my house, that tank, which that's not a very good picture that you have there, will be there. I took a photograph of the tank with out on 3159, and that tank is huge. A number of reasons for concern. Needless to say, I'm concerned about the aesthetics, change of lifestyle of living in Bulverde since the 1990s and enjoying the atmosphere and the country setting that we have, and the main reason for moving out here many years ago versus being in San Antonio. It'll also have a economic effect upon the value of our property in the future. As a former real estate broker, properties adjacent to industrial properties, their value goes down. Do I think someday I'd have a neighborhood next to me? Sure. Having nice houses next door to me? Well, that's life. It's development, and I have no objection to that. I've sold a lot of nice houses in this new neighborhood. My concerns, though, other than personal, a number of different things. As initially mentioned, they requested two $500,000 tanks that were going to be 50 feet high. It's basically a 5-story building that extends well above the height of the native oak trees we have. The zoning committee voted. They reduced it to 25 feet high, but the dome, you're still at 35 feet. You're tall. But if you take the same quantity of water, the footprint of that tank now has expanded quite a bit. So more of that land is now being covered with concrete. It's going to bring us to another one of the factors. If you look at a topographical map of where that site is, which was, from my understanding, being donated by the developer to Texas Water Company, is a freebie. For future development further out Ammon Road didn't benefit Bulverde residents. Anyway, in putting the tank there, water flows downhill from what I'm told, and it's easier for them to pump it back uphill. So they picked that site. Cost effective means more money for water company. It's good for them, not good for me. Not good for other residents. Get water is pumped in one direction. Is it going to benefit existing Bulverde residents? No, because the water is being pumped past us on further west. And I request some additional time, please.
They're ready for cancel. But we have a very long list of.
Let me just hit the final things, please, so I can have a little more time. All right. The impervious area, there is flooding on Ammon Road right now. Two dips. One of them is right adjacent to that. Topography is a funnel to that location. If it's in a floodplain, they're going to have to raise that foundation of that tank higher to be out of the floodplain. Also tree ordinances, again, y'all gonna waive all the trees, no trees be demolished, taken out. The amount of other things, the zone, one last comment. In,
That is, sir. We're gonna move on to the next person. Thank you. And next person will be Mr. Richards, Brianna Richards.
Richard, you're listening. Yeah, sorry. We understand. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you for the time to speak. I had submitted a letter of objection to this building. Next to Richard, I am the next closest person to where this facility will be going in. There's a few concerns, and some of them have been addressed already, which I'm happy to hear someone's here with you. But I'd like to just address a few of them. Some of them are going to reiterate what's already been said. We do have an aesthetic issue. I appreciate an 8-foot wall going around. I appreciate the attempt. But when the item being blocked is 35 feet tall, that doesn't really do a whole lot. It's throwing a stone into a pond. Secondly, and Keith started to mention it, we have flooding that has started right at that site. It started when the construction came in for the water line and the construction for Goldsmith Track. It wasn't there previously when I moved in 3 years ago, but it is now started. They are going to have to clear out more. We lessen the trees, we lessen absorption, we increase flooding. Already going towards Rob Verde, there's, in heavy rain, there's a massive section that floods that police have to block. It's very dangerous. If we have further flooding to the right, we are going to have landlocked citizens that can't get out if we have flash flooding. Secondary to that, property values. That's a major thing. I just came in 3 years ago. I spent over 7 figures on my chunk of property that is right next to this gigantic tank going in. I will be lucky if when I go to sell, hopefully very, very far in the future, that I can get that value back out. With rezoning, anything by an industrial zone, when we're all residential around it, is going to negatively impact our value. Also, I haven't heard anything discussed on those that have existing wells. I have a private well. Most people, I think, on Persimmon Hill have a private well. How will having a pump station, is it going to affect our aquifer at all? Is there any impact that might then affect our private water system? And let me make sure I have nothing else. Oh, and the sound. I was glad to hear we're going to have a building around it. There was no mention of decibels. There was mention of a building going around it. I didn't hear what the decibels were going to be without the building, what the decibels were going to be with the building. I work from home full time. My husband's a physician in this area, treats many pediatric neurology patients. And sometimes we have to work from home. We have to take calls, and we need to know that there's not going to be a loud noise happening, or when power outages inevitably come, that it's not going to make it to where we can't work or we can't handle business. I appreciate your time, Madam Mayor and Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Barb, wait, oh, okay. Thank you. Yes, I know you. Please,
Mayor Hunt and Council, my name is Bob Hieronymus. I am a resident of Persimmon Hill subdivision, which is immediately adjacent to this subject property. I think it's necessary to take a step back to look at a little bit of history here. I'll try to cover it quickly. 30 years ago, I was a real estate broker in San Antonio, and I saw in the planning office of San Antonio government a plan to start annexations up Highway 281 to reach the Guadalupe River Bridge. If they could have accomplished that, that would have given them unfettered access to Canyon Lake water. You know, San Antonio has that as a major concern, always. We knew that if San Antonio were to be taking over Highway 281 through our area, we would lose all voice in government. We would simply be another little spot on the map. But we wanted to maintain ourselves as a rural community. We had 20 elections over the course of 2 years, so the people of this area made the decisions to create the city of Bulverde. It was done with 5 individual cities. I happen to be the planner and mayor of Bulverde West, which includes this area that we're talking about. I physically drew the city limits of that and turned it over to a surveyor to make the legal descriptions. So I have a particular interest in this one. What I see here is an industrial facility coming into a residential neighborhood under what I would consider to be a disingenuous labeling of a special use permit, which really should be counted as a zoning change for industrial purposes. And it is 100% contrary to the concept for which we established our city, namely to maintain a countrified atmosphere that would continue. And that is one of the basic concepts in our Bulverde government concept, that we retain a country atmosphere in every way that we can. Consequently, I would highly recommend that you vote this down. It is the wrong thing, and it provides no water to Bulverde. It's to other developments later on, which are not even yet on the horizon. So I recommend that you vote. Thank you.
Please, let's see that. See?
Am I allowed to get handouts?
No.
I have 2 different ones that may help clarify.
All right, well,
I thought we
sorry.
said.
We'll talk about it later, but at this time, it's not appropriate to accept.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
2 minutes to describe what.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for listening to me. My name is Steve Dellenbach. I'm a resident of Centennial Ridge. I also serve as the president of the Centennial Ridge Property Owners Association. I'm an engineer. I don't want to appeal a motion. I'm here to appeal to your fairness and reasonableness. The subdivision called Thornburg has gone through multiple iterations, as you all know. And all of the disclosed information, this was meant to be greenland. It's a catchwater basin. They're talking about putting this tank inside a reclamation basin. Seems like a pretty bad idea to me. Not quite sure what can happen to all that water. As we know, they previously wanted a water tower. Now it's to help control pressure. A water tank like this is supply purposes, so its location is quite arbitrary where you put it. I've talked to the engineer, the TWC engineer, and he explained to me that the pipeline being put in that will be used to fill this tank is to head west. The water is traveling from east to west, so it can only feed Bell Oaks. That's the only subdivision that currently uses their water supply, to my understanding. If you look at what TWC has done, previous gentleman talked about how does Bulverde look. TWC has gone along Almond Road in Blankville and put a 30-foot scar along the roadway. They're not restoring it the way they promised. I don't know when they're going to. They've messed up our entrance, and they are not being responsible with that. So what I don't understand is why we would support something that's never been in their plan. All of a sudden now magically they have this need to cut cheap land. So the other aspect of this is that we were told that this could be somewhere else. So I'm going to make a proposition, and this is the fairness I asked you about. If this is such a good idea, if it's so reasonable to do so that Bell Oaks has a better water supply, I think their developers and their builders should buy land and put the tank in Bell Oaks. Why should Bell Oaks infrastructure be placed 5 miles away in our combined area? It's gonna make Almond Road uglier. Think about the size of this tank. How many people have seen the Hampton Inn on 281? Think of a 12-room Hampton Inn on Almond Road. That's the size. 12, like a 2-story hotel room, 6 floors each floor. Now, they only are asking for 1 tank. How many people in this room believe TWC is not gonna come back and ask for a second tank? I just didn't fall off the turnip truck, okay? I really urge you to think about the fairness of this. Is if this is to serve Bell Oaks, then Bell Oaks should host their own infrastructure and not put it on the other folks over here. You know, I understand it's an economic good deal, but let's be fair about this. Thank you very much. Please vote no.
Are you representing the engineers?
I'm with Freeland Trick Engineering Group. On behalf of TWC, we have a TWC representative. If you have any questions, we can do our best to answer them.
TWC is here.
Yes, I'm Ted Bryan. I'm a project manager with TWC.
All right, Councilman Haynes, want to start by your question? Down here.
I just had a question. Where is the water gonna come from to fill this?
The water supply, yeah, we have a map that, there we go. So at the vast majority of this water is surface water from Canyon Lake, from our Park Shores surface water plant. That water's sucked out of the lake, treated, pumped down 306, down 281, and into Bull Lake.
So my question is, a lot of residents have said that they're concerned about their wells. How would this affect their wells? When it's a pumping station, it's not a drilling and pumping, correct? It's just pumping.
There are no new wells being drilled with this project. Okay. And about 90% of the water will be surface water from the lake.
Okay. Primary reason for this is for Bell Oaks, is that correct? I know that y'all are getting water from South South Comal Water and GBRA. Is this basically so you don't have to buy water from them anymore?
Not really. So on the western side of the system, which is the Glenwood subdivision, Bell Oaks, Park Village, that whole area, currently we purchase water from GBRA, from a GBRA turnout, and it goes into one of our tanks, and then we distribute that water. We purchase it as treated potable water. We have an agreement and an allotment from GBRA, so we're capped on what we can purchase from GBRA. We're allowed to purchase that water from any one of our turnout sites. We have 4 of them. So the purpose of this is to bring additional water supply to that western portion of our service area that has a sole source of water. Operationally, it's a very bad situation to have a sole source of water. We always want secondary tie-ins, alternates, right? If we have one hiccup with GBRA, we have hundreds of customers out of water. The pump station is needed simply due to elevation change. If we could get it there without pumping it, we would absolutely do it.
What is the tank doing if we need the pump station to get it there? And I understand, you know, you've got all those miles that you got to carry it. What is the tank for then?
So we need to fill the tank and then pump out of the tank. And
okay.
Yeah, TCQ.
Yes, and we need TCQ regulations and storage capacities in relation to number of customers that are in that pressure pump.
So to go off of what Ted said, it's TCEQ requirement. It's absolutely needed for not only the Goldsmith subdivision for ground storage, but for likewise downstream subdivision.
I'm not exactly in love with the location that y'all select. Parked it right on Mr. Osborne's homestead, or he plans to live the rest of the days.
Yeah, understood.
Why can't this be more centrally located on that parcel of land? I mean,
It needs to be close. Well, the site was agreed upon and given in the developer agreement with the Thornburg subdivision. And it's best to put the site as close to the transmission main, as close to the source of water as we can.
there's nothing you can do to design that pump station to accommodate an extra 1,000 foot of pipe to make up for that setback.
I mean, it's not impossible, but at that rate, we could probably purchase a different piece of property.
So is that an option that
I'd like to touch on that about the added cost. So we could very well do all those things that are added cost, but those added costs get then relayed to the customers on Texas Water System. We have over 1,000 connections on the west side of Comal County, and a large portion of them are inside the city of Bulverde city limits. So they're residents of the city, they're constituents of Texas Water's system, and they would bear the burden. So
amongst all customers, we have to make up the burden of you purchasing a more appropriate property. I understand that. But in my purview, that's the Hill Country premium. We're all willing to pay. That's my stance. I just don't see why this has to be parked right on the road next to this gentleman's house in plain sight of all Bulverde's residents, where the vast majority of the customers served by this improvement are going to be well and west of Bulverde. I think that there's going to be some concessions considered in that regard, because as it stands, the work that y'all done along that road is nice, where it really stuck out. It makes people wonder what else is going to happen when you disrupt the Hill Country to build your infrastructure. I get it, 100% on board with adding infrastructure to supply water and demand under certain conditions where we might have to maintain it, like wildfires and things. I get that. But the design of this seems that it is just out of pure convenience for your company to plant it right there. That's my view.
Yeah, I will say, if it was an alternate lot, it's going to be in pretty much the same vicinity. Operationally, we need to be close to the same vicinity as the current site.
Yeah. And I heard you guys discuss it, the ideal locations in this area. But I'm looking at this large tract of land. I'm wondering why this can't be pushed more interior and off someone's doorstep and out of plain sight of people that come out to Bulverde to just enjoy the scenery and not be nestled up to a massive industrial complex. Be what it is. That's what it would look like.
It's also to serve a development that was approved by the city of Bulverde. In a subdivision that will have multiple neighbors. We're going to be one neighbor. We build top-notch infrastructure to the best of our abilities, but very good standards. I think it's important to remember we're going to be one resident in a new subdivision, providing a utility for the subdivision that was approved by the city of Bulverde.
I get it, 100%. I get that. Just really wrestling with where you plan on putting this thing. I don't think that really is the best interest of the neighbors, as well as anybody else transitioning through Bulverde. I just don't like it.
I understand.
If somebody bought property next to your facility, then that's on them. But this gentleman's been living here for over 30 years, has built a beautiful home. His yard looks like a park. And you're going to put a commercial industrial site right next to his fence. I just don't see that's right.
I've got several questions that I wanted to pose to you. Let me start out here. Mr. Osborne reached out to me and suggested that I should come out and visit his property, which I did, and he gave me a little tour of it. I took a few pictures, but that sparked a number of questions. And the first question that I had was, what is this thing actually going to look like? Because based on what was provided, it was just a little diagram footprint. So I went out and did some research, and I found a GBRA pumping facility down at Verde Road and Highway 281. And I've got a picture of that. I'm not sure I can see a page number on it, but I thought maybe the first thing we should do is just take a quick look at that and see if. Right there. So that's the facility, and that's definitely a commercial facility, and that's located behind a strip center or next to a strip center. It's got GBRA, what is it, San Antonio Water System logos on it, and I wondered, is that what you're going to build?
No.
So how is what you're going to build different than that?
We are going to build a concrete tank that will be somewhat similar to that in finish. It will aesthetically be somewhat different. I don't know the size of that tank.
It looked like it was, based on my measurements, about 45, roughly about 45 feet.
So our tank will be almost half that height to the reference line.
And how much broader around?
It's a 60-foot diameter.
60-foot diameter.
So it will be
35 feet in height.
Yeah, almost half that height. We will also have no pumps exposed like that. All the pumps will be inside of, like Mr. Aliscar said, enclosed CMU split face.
You won't see any of that?
Oh, okay. No.
Also, Bailey, could you go to, there was a little video there in the pump house. That one right there. Could you run that? I hope the sound plays on this. Because the reason I'm saying that is I stood in front of that pump house and I was 50 feet away from, at least from here to that back wall. And I couldn't hear the traffic on 281 because of the noise coming out of that building right there.
Yeah, I couldn't hear it, but I've been to many of them, and I know exactly what you're talking about. So that's,
you can't hear 281 traffic.
That's the other reason for putting all the pumps inside a concrete block building with a concrete roof.
So it wouldn't be anything like that?
Nothing like that building at all.
Okay. And then, Bailey, if you could go to this picture right here, that's right by the tank. So when I went over there and walked on the property where this was proposed to be, we found a series of stakes right there. And this is the closest stake to Mr. Osborne's property. You can see it's probably about 50 feet. Now, I don't know what that stake represents, but there was a series of them in a line that went all the way from the gravel road to that point right there, which I assume was something about the setback that we showed there. And then I had another Bulverde resident send me a video that they took just recently, and there was probably 8 to 12 inches of water going right through this area. And they just took that in July. And I got wondering if we've got a big tank sitting right in the middle of that, it's dispersing the water, isn't it going to push that water right up the hill to Mr. Osborne's house?
Yeah. We're not going to build inside the floodplain. So
it's going to be
outside. Everything will be outside of the floodplain, sir.
Our exhibit shows where the floodplain limits are. We're staying well outside of it.
I'm not sure what those stakes are. That may be from the developer, perhaps.
Yeah. I didn't know either, but they didn't look good for Mr. Osborne. Okay, that's basically. The last thing I had. We talked a little bit about options, but you've got no other options inside of Thornbrook available to you from the developer as it stands right now.
No, sir. Not within the subdivision. We would have to purchase a property outside of the city limits.
So you have to go across the street or something like that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And if you did that, you'd be building the same facility just on the opposite side of the street?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I actually have a motion. So I'll wait.
All right.
Yeah, so, here's my role with it. You know, within the city, you know, we can control the amount of tanks, we'll recommend the amount of tanks, number of tanks, the size of the tank, number of the pumps, what the privacy fence around it looks like, what the architecture looks like on the tank.
Yes, sir.
But outside the city limits, especially if they gotta buy land, I mean, they're not gonna be financially incentivized to build a good looking tank. Probably gonna build it for the 1 million gallon capacity, and it's not gonna look as nice as this site. But that being said, I've received a lot of emails, and I appreciate it. I don't respond to all of them, but I guarantee I read all of them. And then the citizens of Bulverde, especially the citizens that live here in Boston, Richard Osborne, they made it crystal clear to me that this is gonna negatively impact their life, and they have to go build a bigger, uglier tank site down the road. But you know, the city limits, you know, it stops after Centennial Ridge, really, and that's the side the water pipeline's on. Dog legs under the road at the end of East Hammond. So they can buy that corner there. So they're just gonna move it down the road. They made it clear they're still gonna build it, just not here. But I've listened to the citizens, and I've pretty much made up my mind on this. Can you speak more about the ratio of groundwater and Canyon Lake water that's gonna go into the pipeline?
Sure, yeah, so we have some sporadically placed well sites in the Park Shores public water system. But the vast majority is surface water from the lake. So it's a blended water supply, heavily weighted in surface water.
Okay. I know in your famous construction moratorium letter, it says back in 2023, y'all secured 6,000 acre feet of untapped water in Illinois County. Would any of that water make it through the pipeline? I can only assume that's groundwater, right? Along 1863.
Yes, it is groundwater. It will eventually. Yes.
Okay, 6,000 acre feet of water, that's a lot.
Yes.
There's a lot of people at Shepherd Ranch that are on wells. And you know, the Trinity is so compartmentalized, and there's so many different rock porosity and density. I mean, you can't, it's so difficult to even understand the impact you'll have on the aquifer just by how the nature of the aquifer is. I mean, we're gonna have drawdowns, that's a whole nother problem, but I mean, we're not talking about that, we're talking about the booster pump site, but yeah, that's all my question, so.
Okay, I have a question. I understand the need to supply the water, right? And I understand that we have also infrastructure problems with the other older customers that you have in the area, correct? I understand that y'all are investing a lot of money in supplying your new customers, correct? What is happening to your old customers, right? And is there not a better way? Because I will tell you, I am totally against where y'all want to put this. Okay, I don't think it's any fair to any of those residents that live in that area or any of us who travel up and down on the road. I now come over up 281 going north. First thing I see when I go over the hill in Comal County, what do I see is the water. I don't think we want to see that as we travel up and down the road, right? Nor do the residents who bought their homes out there that have lived out there 30 plus years, and they don't want that in their front yard. I get it, but I also understand that you need supply. You have to have infrastructure. You have to have infrastructure for future water. Okay, that's not the place. Okay. Give me an option. Give me an option where it fixes your old customers, that you have to supply to, can also take care of what's going on over there. Is there a way? And I understand our topography and our hills and everything else, where it needs to be for pressure and how it has to travel. And I've met many times with you already, right? However, that's not the place for that. And is there an option for us to get that somewhere else where it would benefit more?
A different location would be, like we had said, it's in the immediate vicinity.
But that's not service, would not service your
It's serving existing new customers in the Bellows area in Ventana. It's also servicing Glen Oaks, that's a much older subdivision. As far as this pump station servicing customers easterly, that's not what it's designed for. We have multiple projects that are improving water, reliability, redundancy to existing customers in Bulverde. We have multiple projects. We're replacing pipeline along 281. We have interconnect projects that are slated for next year that will tie our two largest water systems together, and for the direct benefit to bring water from our Triple Peak system on the southern side of the lake directly into Bulverde.
Can you go back to the map, the original map, the line up? So, I guess my question is, this is for because a lot of people don't understand, all of the lines and everything. So that one. This one. Okay, so here we are in Bulverde Hill, right? We supply us water here in this area, right?
Yes.
Our infrastructure in this area is not real good, right? It's very old. We've been there for many, many, many years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're going to put a pushing pump over here. So are we going to be expected to find another pump somewhere in here? Or, what is the plan to fix this area right here that we have, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But we're fixing over here too. Is there not something somewhere that would work for both and not be on somebody's doorstep?
Well, you're always gonna be someone. Yeah.
That's how it works, right?
Can I interject here, Bella?
So, like I said, we can't move the pump station all that far. And with other projects, we're trying to alleviate heartaches that we have in other parts of our system.
This project too was based on a larger master plan. It was conducted by another consultant. They looked at the overall system and how to provide it. Included the double feed, and so a big part of that location is based on that larger study. So there's really not a lot of flexibility for the location based on that study of where it needs to go to move water into this area.
So if we take note of that, we'll just move across the street and then we have to control.
Where it will back us into a corner where we have to purchase another site because we must build the pump station.
The financially incentivized site.
And then
And then it's right.
Oh, she wants to learn.
Well, it's still need to pay. So,
I have it.
well, I'd like to just say, I live directly next to the water tank on Panther Drive. And, honestly, y'all are a great neighbor track, low mode, you're nice and quiet. But here's the difference. We bought that lot knowing the water tank was there.
That's right.
A completely different situation around. Now,
Okay.
Thank you. I am sensitive to the importance of infrastructure, especially when it comes to water. And you guys are in an unenviable position. I understand that. I'm going to be completely frank and tell you that it sounds to me like the developer was willing to give you this land and that was good enough for you. It is not, I'm sorry to say, good enough for me. We have an absolute obligation to this community to make our decisions under Texas local government code based on reasonable consideration, I'm quoting now, among other things, for the character of each district and its peculiar suitability for particular uses, with a view towards conserving the value of buildings and encouraging the most appropriate use of land in the municipality. I have not heard you say that you considered other alternatives for this pump station. And so I would like to recommend to my colleagues that we require an alternatives and operations memorandum that compares other feasible sites and lower height configurations against baseline for this site against baseline state requirements for storage and pressure. That is a request that would not guarantee an outcome, but would inform our decision with respect to this request. To that end, I move that we postpone action on this special use permit for 1015 East Almond Road to a future city council meeting, and direct the applicant to submit at least 10 days prior to that meeting an alternatives and operations memorandum that, one, evaluates 3 to 5 technically feasible sites within the relevant service pressure zone, 2, analyzes at least 2 lower height configurations at the proposed site, 3, demonstrates compliance with relevant Texas Administrative Code requirements, including those regarding siting separations, storage and pressure capacity and operational standards, and 4, compares neighborhood compatibility in detail, including height profiles, lighting, fencing and screening and noise, and construction access and duration across alternatives.
So I think that motion is well thought out and very fair, so I say.
Thank you.
So that's something y'all would be, you gotta buy the land over. And it's still gonna be a 500,000 gallon tank per PPE standard.
Yes. There's a motion pending.
We have a motion pending. Excuse me, but the other people, excuse me, ma'am. No.
Was there more?
Did they sign?
She said there's more public comment, is what she's saying. You're saying there was more public comment.
What was your name, ma'am?
My husband just signed it to speak.
What's your husband's name now?
I didn't sign up. There's someone I signed up.
No, we've exhausted all the folks that have signed up to speak
On this
so
matter.
Yes.
I apologize.
Okay.
At the end of the meeting, you will have the ability to make a public comment, but on this matter, you know.
All right, so we have a motion,
Yes.
and we have a second, and do we want to vote on that motion?
Can you restate the motion, Francesca? Because
Yes, I can. I move we postpone action on the special use permit for 1015 East Almond Road to a future city council meeting and direct the applicant to submit at least 10 days prior to that meeting an alternatives and operations memorandum that, 1, evaluates 3 to 5 technically feasible sites within the relevant service pressure zone, 2, analyzes at least 2 lower height configurations at the proposed site, 3, demonstrates compliance with relevant Texas Administrative Code requirements, including those regarding siting separations, storage and pressure capacity, and operational standards, and 4, compares neighborhood compatibility in detail, including height profiles, lighting, fencing and screening, and noise, and construction access and duration across alternatives.
One question on that, Mr. Castro, is it 10 days the time limit, or is it more basically hard to be?
It would be typically the Thursday, the Wednesday afternoon actually is when Sandra likes to get that material before the meeting, so that would be 7 days.
7 business days?
5 business days, 7 calendar days. 10 days would be exceeding that time period, but.
And we are not giving up our right to reject this.
We are not. This would not predetermine an outcome. This is to inform our decision making.
Okay, so we have a motion, postpone. We have a second, so we're gonna take that to vote.
Yes.
Council, do you have anything that you need to add to that?
No, he was asking if postponing to a specific date, but if they're gonna
It may
do all
take a
these
while.
studies, they're
They
gonna
take
need
a while
time.
to have.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, then we're gonna go ahead and vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Ma'am. You go.
We need more information.
I think it's good. It throws them a lifeline. I think it's good. It throws them a lifeline to try and come up with something. Otherwise, they were going to get denied.
You want to take a brief recess, but you're out.
One thing I wish you had added that I'd like to impervious purpose. That's good.
Well, one of the things in my hip pocket is I think we should require a business study. I think we're gonna have to. I hope that comes. We will at least have a conversation about whether we're making some sound requirements. We may not be able to get away with it completely, but we're gonna do what we can. We're gonna do what we can. Yes. Thanks, Lindy. Wow. Is your mic on?
Oh, I'm sorry. Public meeting back to order at 7:55. Okay. 3D. Hold a public hearing and consider the approval of an ordinance for the establishment of a PDD plan development district with a base zoning of R2 residential district for approximately 329 acres, generally located 1 mile north of the intersection of Highway 2-Way 1 and FM 1863. Bulverde, Texas, 78163. Amending the zoning ordinance, directing amendment of the zoning map, repealing conflicting ordinances, and providing a severability clause in an effective date. I want to make this comment. The question of ethics has been raised, and to avoid any legal action against me or the city, I will not be participating in this agenda item. The issue of this is that it was raised that my ownership of my home and my property is directly adjacent to this proposed development. I must recluse myself from this agenda item.
Who is Mayor Pro Tem? Joe.
Joe,
So what happens is y'all will elect. Yeah.
Brett, take it.
I actually talked about this and I'd like to let Ms. Watson carry this.
Oh, okay.
Would you want to carry it?
Yep, it's fine with me. Should I think you guys have, do they have to vote?
Yeah, you just take it over there. Okay.
Do I move over?
You can sit right where you're at.
I was gonna say.
Don't make a motion that she's going to be.
Yeah, let's make
Somebody
a
has to
motion.
make a motion. Somebody has to make a
I
motion.
move to let Francesca run this next agenda item.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
All in favor? Thank you. So, with respect to this matter, we will now, hear from Danny Bath. Mr. Bath.
Thank you. Members of City Council, let me bring up the map showing the site. So this is the site as it exists today in our zoning map. It's approximately, as the mayor said, 388 acres. Now, only 329 of it, the yellow residential portions, are under consideration tonight. The brown multifamily zone and the red commercial districts are not part of this application. So I just wanted to clarify in case anybody didn't know that. The proposal is for an R2 development, 1 acre plus lots containing 233 single family homes. The item has been considered at P&Z, as the chairman noted earlier, 3 times. And so each time the requested alterations to the city's standard regulations have been narrowed. You take us to the staff report. I'm going to briefly just describe the alterations as they exist as recommended by the commission, and then I will let the applicant make a presentation. So P&Z did recommend approval of this item. The conditions that they would place on their recommendation of approval were that the area in question of a base zoning of R2 residential district, which is 1 acre plus lots, that the city waive the R2 residential district lot aspect ratio requirements, that we reduce the rural local street minimum right-of-way width from 60 feet to 40 feet, provided that to be eligible to use this reduced right-of-way width, the following conditions must be met. All roads utilizing that provision must have a minimum pavement width of 28 feet with a 6-foot shoulder and a 10-foot roadway drainage easement adjacent to the right-of-way that has to be established on all properties abutting the right-of-way. They want to recommend reducing the rural local street minimum centerline radius from 200 feet to 100 feet and reduce the centerline alignment from 100 feet to 50 feet. Reducing the cul-de-sac minimum right-of-way from 120 feet to 100 feet, which would also include that 10-foot drainage easement. Reduce the minimum cul-de-sac right-of-way from low to medium density category to the high density category, meaning it dropped 120 feet to 100. Alter the method of calculation of lot frontage for residential lots and cul-de-sacs. Right now, it's a pretty advanced calculation. This would establish a 35-foot minimum. Allow cuts, fills, and disturbance with sleeps within steep slope areas. They would be permitted without limitation or further authorization within designated rights of ways and for bona fide roadway construction only within 50 feet of those designated right of ways on private property. That's abutting the roadway. The commission recommended that the applicant provide a tree survey meeting the general ordinance requirements, but only within the areas of assumed limits of disturbance and grading area. What that means is the areas that the developer is proposing to disturb himself for infrastructure and rights of way. Provided, however, that the tree survey requirements applicable to the master development plan phase of the development and platting submittals will basically be limited just to the areas that he's disturbing at that time. And the tree survey requirements would be met or deferred for the residential lots until the time the building permit is pulled and disturbance begins on those areas. No tree may be removed from property prior to the issuance of an appropriate authorization from the city. Finally, The commission recommended that riparian buffer areas may encroach within residential lots, but that those encroachments must be contained within easements, and it's limited to an overall number of 55 instances of encroachment as identified in the plans that have been submitted. Now, the applicant has accepted most of those recommendations and altered their application to accept them. However, they are retaining two of their original asks, being primarily for the disturbance within steep slope areas, allow for the unlimited disturbance for bona fide road construction within 50 feet on either side of the right-of-way. Additionally, adding driveway construction and within a 20-foot perimeter around the building footprint of the single-family home to be constructed. And then for tree removal, allow for the removal of all trees not exceeding 35 inches and only one tree exceeding 35 inches within what they call the allowed areas of disturbance. But again, that's going to be the right-of-way and 50 feet on either side of it. I'll also point out that they're recommending the use of a slightly different mechanism for measuring tree diameter. Our ordinance requires it to be done at 4 feet off the ground. They're requesting authorization to do it at 4.5 feet off the ground. And so that is the abridged version. I'm going to turn it over to the applicant now to make their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Batts.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Council members and public. It's a pleasure. Can you all hear me okay? No. You cannot? Okay.
It's not on. There we go.
All right. I'm glad I asked. Well, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. This is our fifth time actually in this chamber. I had the pleasure to be here back in March 11th of this year, when we came in and presented some concepts as we sought advice and feedback from council. That was preceded by 3 meetings with staff, Mr. Batts and previous mayor, as well as the previous city manager, with an effort to understand exactly what the community thought would be a good fit for this property, considering its current zoning. As Mr. Batts just mentioned, the zoning for this property allows for R2, which is 1 acre lots, R3, which is half-acre lots, and a portion of it allows for multifamily, which is apartments and commercial. We opted to stick with the R2 and R3, which is strictly the residential component, and we're very pleased to be here in front of you. We're here to answer some questions, but also as we put in context, I know we have 25 minutes, we'll try our best. It is a $233 million project, and it has a lot of elements to it. So I don't know how much leeway we can get. You just tell us.
I'm going to ask you to do your best to stick to 25 minutes. We have a number of people who've signed up to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will. And ultimately, maybe we say our presentation, people can speak, and then if there's further questions, we can do them afterwards.
The questions that we have will not count against your time.
Oh, thank you. That's great. All right. So all right. So in terms of framing this presentation, I would like to just piggyback on some council members' comments a bit earlier, and to say, what are we all here about? Is this project going to be improving the quality of the life of the people around us, or is it going to hinder the quality of their life? So a few questions we'd like you to just keep in mind as we go over this process. I think they're fair questions to ask. Is this developer such a bad developer? Did we come in imposing anything? Did we ask questions? Did we come back and made the effort of listening to the community and coming back with ideas and concepts that we thought we were told that they fit well within this community, within to preserve the spirit of Hill Country? And that's a question for you all to answer. We're not going to tell you what the answer is. And the other thing is, are we preserving the honor of the community? Are we preserving the honor of the heritage of this land? and the honor of the McCarty family, and the heritage of that particular property. The other question that comes into mind is, for property like this, where we're developing 1 acre lots, they're going to be $1 million. That's what we're envisioning. There's going to be about 260 of them. So,
Excuse me, can I ask the people in the audience, please, not to speak? Let's give him his due, okay? Thank you. Please continue.
Thank you. So, in terms of the general profile, the person that's coming and buying $1 million home, these people generally must have an income, a yearly income that varies between a couple $100,000 to $300,000. If you were to take a median of $250,000 in median income that coming to the city of Woodbury, that's buying power, that's direct effect on the economy, we're looking at $58 million that will come to the city that we believe will inject a lot of life and a lot of money in this economy. And if we're all been elected at different times in our life on the premise of helping people have a better life, improving the living experience, we believe this community will do that. We believe if you were to, talk to the small business people, I wish more of them were here. If we talk to Tony Ramirez, the owner of the Bulgari Barbecue Group, can have more people coming in with money to spend. Are they the Apollo Coffee Shop? Great stuff. Are they going to have more people showing up? If you look at the different retails, if you look at the landscaping folks, like Lisa Hernandez, if you look at Dr. Lindsay Olson, she is going to have substantial people. And hopefully, as you go through this list, I wish some of these people were here to tell you what this will be the impact on their lives. By having a project that fits within the spirit of this community, preserve the hill country spirit, and allow us a chance to take the feedback that we have listened to and acted upon and implement. So on that note, I'm not going to go any further. I would like to start the presentation really quick. And
There should be a clip up there.
thank you. Thanks, Pete. All right. So in terms of
Pause the timer.
Yeah. Not working?
Not working.
Okay.
Controls.
Okay, I'll control it. So let me know who's inside.
Okay, let's
Can
do
you
this
add
fast.
Add 30 seconds to this time, please.
All right.
Thank you.
Teamwork, let's go. All right, so content, intro, zoning application, and provisions based on the approved recommendations by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Next. A little bit about our group. Many of you have read this, so we're not gonna talk about different projects. We've had those in different presentations prior. So basically, we've been developers since 2007. We operate cross-border between Canada and US. Projects in North Carolina, Texas, and Alberta, Canada. We are debt-free. We're a small group, about 3 or 4 of us. We're like-minded, we're agile, we're collaborative, and we believe we provide flexibility. We have low overhead. We can do things that the big boys cannot do. And that's why we believe we're a good fit for this particular project for many reasons to come. All right, so currently in San Antonio, we have 4 active projects, about 6 properties independent from the McCarty Ranch. We have currently 380 single-family homes on 60 acres, all inside the 1604 loop, about 140 apartments, townhouses, more single-family. We have 30-foot, 40-foot, 60-foot. We love doing the bigger ones. That's what we're doing back home, 1 acre lots, and that's what we're doing here. You're all familiar with the McCarty Ranch. It was annexed in 2016, and you just go ahead, 5 different zones. This here was approved in 2017. It's the MDP you're all familiar with. I'm not going to dwell on it. But effectively, in terms of the team that is here, you see a lot of people sitting in the back. I would like to introduce our 2 engineers. So we have Alan Stanton. Alan's our drainage engineer. He's actually also done some work with the city of Bulverde in terms of helping set the code. for the city around drainage. And we have Brooke Lindholm back. Brooke is with Dave Dawson. They're also helping us make sure that we're on track with everything that we're presenting, that it's doable, that it's achievable, that we can build it. So we're not just proposing a plan, we can also propose a plan and be able to build it. And this is why all these variances. It may sound like a lot, but hopefully we'll all work on getting to what is required to be able to make this change and make good use of this property. So in 2017, the other gentleman that is here is Mr. Patrick Christensen, who's our attorney, but he was also the original attorney for this property when it got annexed, and he was responsible for this 2017. So he can later on in public hearing, he can talk about this. But in terms of, please go ahead. So that was approved for 500 residential units and over 200 commercial units. That's what was approved in 2017. Our main focus for this is not 388 acres. It is limited to 329 acres, strictly limited to single-family lots, R2 and R3. So we evaluated a few plans. This is another plan with 399 lots that honors the R2, R3. So you see in the R2 area, more 1 acre lots, in the R3 area, half-acre lots. So that is, if one was to go with the code, if one was to go, we could potentially achieve that. We don't want to achieve that. We're not here to squeeze every single little piece of the property. We want to do what's right for the community. We evaluated other plans. Next slide, please. We came up with our own plans that were presented on March 11th. Some of them were 538 lots. Some of them were 248 lots. The reason why we were initially thinking we're not going to be able to develop a 1 acre lot was because of all these constraints. Topography, you're all familiar, drainage issues, sewer availability, water availability, tree protection, et cetera, et cetera. So, but we were able to, I put the challenge to our team to come up with a plan that we can actually build and make a little bit of money on. We don't have to make the kind of money that the other guys do because we're small. So, if you don't mind, next step. So, in order for us to do what we normally do best, which is to listen and to seek feedback, go overboard on that. As I mentioned, we had a meeting with city officials, January, again in February, again in March. We got a good dose of what the community wants. These are representatives of the community. We came and presented to council in March. Then we held our own town hall meeting where we sent 320 invitations, and basically we had about 100 people attend. We're very pleased about that. We got a lot of feedback. And also, nobody has ever told us, don't develop. Everybody was telling us, develop large lots. Nobody told us, we don't want to develop on this property. Nobody said that. And honestly, if people told us this from the beginning, we would have potentially, okay, walk away. But we decided to listen, we decided to invest. I know there was no commitments from anybody. I'm not saying anybody committed anything to us. But I hope you give us credit for us listening and acting. That's all I ask for. Please go ahead. Feedback, large lots, preserve the hill country spirit, mitigate flooding. Flooding is a good thing. The water issue, and protect the environment, trees, wildlife. And then we also heard from the neighbors in Beverly Hills, and what they wanted, they didn't want sewer treatment. It was an issue with smells in other areas, and they want us to be very careful about water supply, so we're not taking the water pressure. Texas Water Company, anybody here? Anybody left? Everybody left? Okay. So I'm going to key on that, on their presentation, because I think we may have a solution for them and for the city. So we want to preserve the neighbors. We didn't want to design anything. Initially, we had a through traffic going through Beverly Hills. We felt that. So next, please. All right, the zoning application, you all saw it. Everybody had a chance to review it, right? Okay, so I'm not going to dwell on it too much. Let's go ahead. Okay, so we've done, yes, okay, perfect, yes, thank you. So we redesigned, we did a whole bunch of analysis. we made sure that we can replace a sewer treatment plant by on-site sewer, and we conducted a study for that. We hired engineers to do that. We were okay on that. We decided to keep lots of green space, and we wanted to keep a buffer with the Verde Hills to keep the privacy for these people that have been used to having a beautiful view. So we thought we will not touch 100 feet around that whole property, all the way down. So we create that buffer for privacy purposes and to preserve the environment. This is the next one here is the one where I wish the Texas water companies were here for. We did have a conversation with them on it, off the books, but we believe we can provide them what they're looking for. And they don't have to pay for it. They don't have to pay for the land. We're donating the land for it. And we will participate in the cost of it. So we are happy to entertain that idea. We believe we have a solution, and we'll just have to let them decide if this is something that will work for them or not. Again, our design was, we paid special attention for the contours to make sure that we're not cutting and filling too much. If we can proceed, please. All right, so further, so you see, okay, so these are the studies we did, preliminary drainage analysis. Alan's here to go over it with the conservation plan that we shared with Texas Water Company and here. We did a preliminary assessment of the trees. Typically, that's not done at this stage, but we wanted to make sure that everybody understands the impact on the trees when we go to planting. So we took a sample, 30 acres out of 300. We got good numbers from it, but we did more after that. Preliminary grading, we did that as well. Wildlife study. The wildlife study found that that fence that's going all the way around the property is actually limiting the movement of wildlife. So hopefully with this development, we can potentially open it up and allow wildlife through that riparian buffer or the park area, if you want to call it. All right, next please. Next, that's the OSSF's ability report. This is a drainage analysis. I'll ask Alan to talk about it later. Let's go ahead. Conservation, water conservation. Okay, so we believe we are setting a new standard in water conservation. All right, how am I doing on time? It says here, how am I doing on time? 15 minutes.
10.
I have 10 left?
10 minutes.
Perfect, okay. So, so what we have here is we have on the water conservation, we're putting water conservation standards that are enforceable by bylaws of the city. So people will not have discretion on that. All right, next slide, please. This is a grading plan. Go ahead. That's the old grading plan. Go ahead. Ongoing. Okay, keep on going. Because that's what we did initially. Let's keep on going. Because we ended up with. Okay, let's keep on going. That's the wildlife assessment I thought for ongoing. Okay, please go ahead. All right. So what was appreciated in the first meeting with Planning and Zoning Commission is that we did listen. We did come back with 1 acre lots. We have an attractive design. We like it. We have lots of green space. So all these we were given kudos for. Next, please. But the concerns were that we basically were asking maybe for too much in terms of modifications and alterations to the code. Also, big issue with drainage downstream. How is that going to affect the downstream? And honestly, we didn't have answers at that point. What do? We go ahead and get more studies done. And I will invite Alan, or if you want to ask him about that, I don't know how much we have in terms of time.
I'm very interested. So, very your presentation.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm trying to rush through.
I understand.
All right, so I will leave it at the time for Alan and for Burke to be more technical to address that. So in terms of getting, we wanted to do it right. We wanted to show all the effects of this project. We didn't want to leave anything to guessing, right? So he's next. So we ended up commissioning Dave Dawson to come back and revise the plan, to give us substantially more definition on the setbacks that we're asking for, because we were asking for a lot of setback alterations. And then we thought, well, maybe we don't need them. So then Dave Dawson helped us do that, where there's one exhibit that shows you exactly what the setbacks look like on every single lot. We went down to that level of detail. So we were able to eliminate a lot of the modifications that we asked for the setbacks. We kept just the absolute necessary in order for us to make this plan work and deliver that 1 acre lot. So yes, we need for those acre lots to be able to put private sewer on it. We need deeper lots. So the lot aspect we have to change. The roads we may have to alter a little bit, but the minimum pavement on those roads is 22 feet requirement for the pavement. We went to 28 feet to compensate, right? So we're playing ball. We're listening, we're acting, we're injecting more money, honestly, into all of this, but because we want to do it right. Next, please. All right, so this is the plan that Brooke and her team at Dave Dawson ended up coming back with. It highlights the riparian buffer. It shows when we talk about the 55 lots that encroach on the riparian buffer. Those lots, if you look at the vast majority, about 49 of them, they're hardly touching it. But still, technically speaking, we are in it. But there's a big difference between encroachment and disturbance. All right, encroaching means my foot is in it. Disturbing means I'm actually crushing it. Well, in this case, we're only encroaching, we're not disturbing. Very important to understand the difference. All right, next please. Okay, so this is what we asked them to do, which is to highlight every single lot, number every single lot, show all the different setbacks on every single lot. Shall we go with a particular size pack? All right, so we went down to that level of detail. That is, you'll never see this in a zoning process. I can assure you. That happens generally at platting. All right, next please. This is what the typical street section looks like. This highlights the 28 foot. Now we asked for 40 foot ROW instead of a 60, but only to honor the 1 acre requirement for the OSSR. Right, so we kept basically the 60 foot, but we encroached inside the lots by 10 feet to allow for the drainage, reclaiming the 60 feet requirement, just basically allowing for an easement to go on top of the lots to reclaim the 60, if that makes sense. Next, please. So I asked Alan to do a flood mitigation downstream, and I will have him talk about it in a second. Don't mind. Let's just keep on going. I'm gonna reserve that slot for him. We can keep on going. He's got some really cool models and animation. We spent a lot of effort on those, so I want to give them the respect they deserve. We did the full tree inventory after the second commission meeting. Full tree inventory of the whole property. We had 5 people, 7 days in a row, getting bitten, heat strokes. I want them to get it done in time for us to publish the report. So we found 4,000 trees on the property approximately. Invasive, about 3,300. That's about 85%. Non-invasive trees, 767. We have the locations of these trees. We know exactly where they're at. All right. So, and we're happy with the tree survey where it's at. The survey is more detailed than an inventory with GPS location. So, I just wanted to make sure we have GPS locations of all these things. That's all right. So, let's keep on going, please. Okay. So on October 2nd, P&Z was satisfied with the revisions. They voted to recommend approval. And this is what they voted for. Mr. Batts went over it. Please. That's the concept that recommended for approval. This is their recommendations as Mr. Batts had shown. Next, please. This is the one. Okay, let's go back. Sorry. Okay, so this is the one where we just wanted to get more definition to ensure that we have a plan that we can build. All right. The technicality of it, I cannot speak to it. I'll have work come out and speak to it. But all we're asking for is allow us to cut and fill and cut the trees where we need to in order for us to build this. We don't want it anywhere else. We are by right. We can cut on a pad. By right, we can cut in a right of way. But by right, we cannot cut in the driveway. So how do you get to the pad without linking the ROW to the driveway? So, and if you want to cut, can you cut just the pad? Don't you need a little bit of room around it, maybe like 20 feet to allow for equipment to go around? So that's basically what we're asking for. We're not asking for anything extravagant. All we want is if you're allowing us a chance to build this, please give us what we need to build. That's it. And please go ahead. So again, that's what's by right. You all know what's by right. I'm not gonna tell you about it. So yeah, please go ahead. We feel the commission had everything that the commission had great feedback for us. We respected their recommendations. We came back substantially compliant with the recommendations with just a couple little tweaks. And I'm going to now, honestly, that's all I have. How am I doing on that?
50 seconds.
Perfect. There you go.
Well done.
Perfect. Now, if you would allow our engineers to come out and just go over their stuff, I'd be super grateful. Should not take more than 10 minutes.
I think that's reasonable. Yeah, I think Mr. Goff had some questions about that. So do you want to ask your questions and then he can tailor his presentation to those concerns?
Regarding this blank check to make the bank cuts necessary to put in a road, that's going to disrupt the slope significantly, which is going to aggravate flooding conditions. So the survey done here, this analysis, does that take into account extreme disturbance to the existing slope?
I'm gonna let Alan answer this.
So here's what I'm gonna suggest. We have a number of people who've signed up for public comment. Let's say 5 minutes. Can you give us an overview?
All the time you need.
No, sir.
I just posed a question.
No.
This gentleman, plenty of time.
Correct. So 5 minutes to kind of go over the answer to your question, and then I feel like we should open this up to the public comment. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that we're going to give them 5 minutes. That's what we're going to.
No. Okay. I'll be very brief. For the drainage analysis, we looked at two major components: water quality and flood mitigation. Water quality at the plating stage, before any approvals on construction plans are to happen, a contributing zone plan is going to have to be submitted to the TCEQ and approved. That contributing zone plan requires any development on this property to be mitigated for any increased total suspended solids as a result of more impervious cover. So we developed a conceptual plan for a batch retention facility that's going to capture that first flush of rainfall, not only from this site, but from the Bulverde Hills offsite drainage. And it's going to capture the first couple inches, I forget the exact number, but per TCEQ requirements. And it's going to release it slowly over a couple of days. On top of that, our conceptual plan is to add detention on top of that for the Bulverde Stormwater Criteria Manual. So we're going to have one large facility on that southeast corner that's going to function as retention and detention. As for some ancillary benefits of that aren't necessarily quantified, at Johnson Way, just downstream, there's 5 culverts at that crossing. One of those is completely filled with sediment and debris. All of that's going to be captured in the batch detention facility that's going to be built on site. So right now you have 20% less capacity at Johnson Way. That's all going to be taken care of with our batch detention facility. So there's a lot of benefits. We looked at a flood model. You can go down the slide, a couple of slides to the right. If you go back left one. Yeah, so we looked at the existing conditions, the site as is, and we modified the site to what the development's going to be.
to identify, and we looked at 281, we looked at Johnson Way, we looked just offsite, and we made sure that all the flows are going to be less than what it is existing today. So we went, next slide, just to show, hey, we did some due diligence, hydraulic modeling, 2D modeling. We took it all the way down to Johnson Way, and we took this all the way down to Cibolo Creek, basically. So the project will be safe. The project will go through a vetting process at planning stage whenever the flood studies are being reviewed and whenever the CZP is going to be reviewed. That's going to be reviewed by TCEQ.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think what I'd like to do now is open this up to public comment. I know that we will have many questions for you, so you'll have an opportunity to address those. I'm just going to start at the top. Mr. Lyndon Sisk. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, council members. The state of Texas is running out of water. You all saw the movie where Tom Cruise said, "Show me the money." With respect to this project, show me the water. The Texas Water Company currently has multiple subdivisions on hold that they cannot certify when or if they will be able to provide water to. In September Water and Weather Report, the Texas Water Development Board noted that 24% of the state was in drought. Storage and water supply reservoirs was 4 percentage points below normal, and by the end of the year, drought conditions are expected to cover almost the entire state. In a meeting on groundwater, September 24th, Roland Ruiz, general manager of the Edwards Aquifer Authority, noted that the aquifer is essentially tapped out. In other words, there are no more water permits from there to be had. He also noted that data center developments in Medina County, specifically Rowan Digital Infrastructure and Microsoft, are being told to provide their own water because there is no water in that county. He also said that he wished that the EAA had the authority to collaborate in purchasing conservation easements in the Texas Hill Country to help mitigate the effects of fast-coming developments. This morning, the Comal County Commissioners Court voted to apply for $30 million from the Texas Water Development Board to provide conservation easements in the county. At a meeting about groundwater on October 9th, a representative of Texas A&M University Extension Department said it would take 22 inches of rain to get us out of drought, and this area has been in drought status now for 1,400 days. While demand increases due to 1,500 people moving into the state every day, this Texas Water Development Board expects to have a 32% decrease in groundwater supplies expected mainly from depletion of the Ogallala and other infrastructures. AI data centers are exploding in the city and can take $500,000 of water a day, and some are bigger than that. A PDD does not require drainage studies or water studies. Because of the precarious nature of our water supplies, I recommend that a water supply be required by the city council as well as a drainage supply, and that should not be done until the Texas Water Company updates its water availability report, which is due at the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sisk. For the record, I did not make note of it. Public comment was opened on this matter at 8:32 p.m. Mr. Gary Short.
Good evening, council members. The residents of this area are very concerned that the city is willing to actually consider a PDD that is asking for so many variances. We had believed that ordinances were put in place a good while back that would take care of things and would deal with all issues except for those that were few and far between, where there were pertinent issues that needed to be discussed. Instead, this development seems to be looking for a blank check.
Flooding is and has been a concern of the area for a long time. I know we've just heard a little bit in the plan, but as the area has been built, we have continued to enjoin ourselves with other concerns. As the area has been built and new cities have come in, new buildings have come in, we've been concerned about the impervious cover continue to account for more and more space. What has the city done over this period of time to look at studies and to conduct studies that would give us more information? We have even been told that the city is not enforcing impervious cover in the ETJ area, even though we believe they have proper jurisdiction under the subdivision regulations. We're aware that the city has a small staff and a limited budget, and often this leads to a situation where things are not built according to plan, and we cannot effectively monitor these developments. The concern for residents downstream from this development is genuinely flooding. The diversion of water into two detention ponds, built to hold to a standard of 100-year flood, of which there have been several in the past few years, as you well know, worries all of us downstream that what will happen to us when our homes are flooded. The response we have heard from the city management in the past has been that it will be left up to us on our own at our own expense to litigate all of this after the fact. We know that many of you on the council have run for this office and this leadership position because you believe in responsible growth. Is allowing a developer all of these considerations really what responsible development is about? There are proper ordinances that need to be followed. We believe that responsible development requires all pertinent and detailed studies to be done prior to the approval of this or any other project. Thank you for your time and protection for our area.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Mr. Joey McCarty.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for giving me the opportunity. Little background, I'm not being financially compensated for any of this. I'm here for basically because my introduction to Bull Verde was 1972 when my mom and dad bought the ranch. And basically I was raised there, had a great childhood, met great people, loved the area, and it was a blessing to be able to spend that much time here. I personally got the ranch 1993 when my mother passed away, and had to make a decision: am I going to live in San Antonio, or am I going to come up to Bull Verde and rekindle my time at the ranch? So the big house on the hill we built in 1995, and it was really a great environment, and continues to be a great environment. But 1972, basically I was raised there. 1995, my wife and I, we raised our two children in Bull Verde. Coached Little League. My son played Little League. It was just the perfect childhood and environment to raise my kids. So I'm still emotionally attached to the ranch, even though we sold it in 2007. Still tremendous amount of good memories. And so one of my concerns when we sold was what was going to happen. We didn't have a crystal ball, but we had concerns about what kind of development would be placed on our little piece of paradise. And so I've owned 3 ranches, managed another ranch, dealt with a lot of developers, and So I have a basis of comparison as to what's good, what's bad, what's honorable, and what's out there to make a quick buck. In my experience with Samir in his development group, I'm very impressed based on all my experience. And really, I'm very pleased that he's gone the low density route.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Mr. McCarty?
Yeah, so we basically, we've been very impressed with Samir in his operation because of the low density aspect of the development. We've seen other ranches, other parcels of land go high density in this general vicinity. And it's an unmitigated train wreck. And we do not want to see that with the old homestead. And I firmly believe these guys, they have great intentions. They're honorable people. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. McCarty.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mrs. Yvonne Chapman? Mrs. Chapman?
Good evening. Thank you for this moment. As you consider the requested variances for the McCarty Ranch development,
I'm sorry, can you speak into the microphone?
I respectfully suggest our city do a regional drainage update to analyze the cumulative effect of development over the past 10 years with focus on mitigation. We have done nothing of the sort since 2015. The review of the applicant's many request is to be excused from our ordinance, specifically the storm drainage design criteria manual, and the flood damage prevention ordinance is complex. The purpose of those ordinances are to protect human life and health, minimize the need for rescue and relief efforts during flooding, to help maintain a stable tax base by providing for the sound use and development of flood-prone areas, with methods of reducing flood losses, such as, restricting or prohibiting uses that are dangerous to health, safety, or property in times of flood, or cause excessive increases of flood heights or velocities. You have the ability to require controlling, altering the natural floodplain, stream channels, and natural protective barriers, and to control the filling, grading, dredging, and other development which can increase flood damage. We are told that a retention that would offer protection from a 1 or 2 inches of rain is being offered. Will it be delivered? And having seen many 2-inch rains become 8-inch rains and the cumulative effect of that, what good would that do? Is that sufficient for people downstream? The video that was taken on July the 5th is the Cibolo Creek Tributary 23, which originates in McCarty Ranch. It is the drainage channel behind the fire station in Johnson Ranch. Stormwater runoff in this channel does close Johnson Way, preventing parents access to their children during school hours and the ESD from deploying its equipment. The residents in Johnson Ranch are owed a duty of care from the city of Bulverde. Johnson Ranch is under a development agreement with the city of Bulverde. They are entitled to the same duty of care as residents within the city limits. Is approving variances to the drainage ordinance and flood damage prevention ordinance reasonable or acceptable given the costs which we impose?
Thank you, Mrs. Chapman. Lorraine Ronquillo.
Good evening, council members. My name is Lorraine Ronquillo. Each of you should have received a letter from Victoria Ann Rose, an attorney with Save Our Springs Alliance. I'll be mentioning portions of her letter throughout my comments. Ms. Rose raises the issue of the obligation of the developer under the Federal Endangered Species Act, ESA, to protect the golden cheek warbler habitat in its natural environment. The warbler nests across central Texas in ash, juniper, oak woodlands. In fact, every warbler in the world is born in Texas. Continued habitat destruction has caused it to be listed as an endangered species. Under the ESA, it is unlawful for any person, including developers, to cause harm to the warbler without a permit issued under the Endangered Species Act. Harm includes destruction of its habitat. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service maps indicate that the warbler could be protected by the activities within the boundaries of the proposed McCarty Ranch development. Essentially, contemplated development of the McCarty Ranch violates the ESA. The high potential for golden cheek warbler habitat within the boundaries of the development and the destructive nature of the developer's plans obligates the developer to approach Fish and Wildlife about the need for an incidental take permit, inquire about participation in the Comal County Regional Habitat Conservation Plan, or face liability under Section 9 of the ESA. This obligation on the developer's part exists even though the warbler does not have a designated critical habitat. Further, Ms. Rose raises the issue of the developer's miscategorization of the ash juniper trees as an invasive species in his materials provided to the Planning and Zoning Commission, when they are in fact native to the hill country. The warbler depends on the mature ash junipers for habitat. She clearly states that it is disappointing to see the developer of the proposed McCarty Ranch development spreading misinformation to justify actions that will harm the wildlife and community of Bulverde. The developer gives short shrift to the habitat, simply stating in one sentence that the project site also contains potential habitat for the federally listed golden cheek warbler as outlined in the IPAC table. I call upon you to ask the members of the Planning and Zoning Commission the extent that they considered the warbler's habitat and the requirement of the ESA. In conclusion, the council should require the developer to comply with the Endangered Species Act as well as Comal County's Regional Habitat Conservation Plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. McCullough. I apologize in advance if I'm going to mispronounce this name. Habibi Rajpari did not designate an agenda item.
I'm going to speak. I'm always Mohammed.
Oh, okay, so this is for the sign issue. Thank you. Brian Weller. Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you speaking? Which agenda item? That's my question. Which agenda item?
Three. McCarty Ranch.
The McCarty Ranch issue? Thank you. It just wasn't specified. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Temp.
Not even that.
Designated.
Thank you. Designated, whatever.
Fair enough.
Thank you. Can you start his time again? I apologize. Thank you.
My name is Moiz Mohammed, and I've been a resident of Bulverde since 2022. My wife and I moved here because we fell in love with the hill country spirit and the sense of community. The open space, the peaceful quality of life that makes this area so special to us. I have a 7-year-old daughter who attends Johnson Ranch Elementary, and like many families here, we deeply care about preserving what makes Bulverde unique while allowing for responsible and thoughtful growth. I'm here tonight in support as a supporter of the proposed development and as a family member of one of the original investors in this property. This land is about 388 acres, was purchased back in 2008, annexed to the city in 2016, and zoned in 2017 to include residential, multifamily, and commercial uses under the approved master development plan. For the past 18 years, the ownership group has continued to pay property taxes, supporting the community, the school districts, the emergency service districts, the county, but yet never received any of the services in return. I believe that this plan represents responsible growth, and it fits in with our Hill Country character, values, and aligns with our community's vision. Blocking this project would prevent the land from contributing to the city's progress and would negatively impact more than 110 families that have been tied to this property for almost 2 decades. With that, I just wanted to say we are in support of this project.
Thank you very much. Brian Weller.
I'm gonna keep it short. Good evening, council.
Good evening.
I'm just here to talk about the R2 and R3. I mean, it was zoned, like I'm following up with what he just said. It was zoned, and you know, it was zoned R2 and R3, right? So somebody can come in here and do what they need to. I get it. He's making do with what he can. It's tough out there, right? So I live here like the rest of us. Been here 23 years. So, I mean, he's taking it better. He's not asking to build townhomes. He's not trying to take that 100-acre tract and build whatever they were trying to build before, put in those other homes up there. And it's just, whatever. I don't want to pick on that, but like multi-family homes, whatever you want to call it, R5. So, I mean, he's trying to step it up to R2, which I agree with. I mean, if it shouldn't have never got to this point, then we should have never zoned this thing in 2017. So it should have just been left blank and decided at the time. I just don't agree with, like zoning it R2 and then R3 and then have, I get all the impacts, all the rest of the stuff, but it's a zoning thing that, kind of got me thrown. He's wanting to do better. He's not asking for a lesser. He's making it better for everything. So that's about it,
Thank you, Mr.
I mean,
Long.
on my back porch, I see the whole property. I don't want to see what I see down on the other side of 281.
Thank you, Mr.
Somebody will
Long.
come through and just mill it out. We don't want that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mohammed, I believe you already spoke. Yeah, correct. Yes. Thank you. So the public comment period is closed at 8:54 p.m. Members of council, it's over to you. Councilmember Hayes, do you have questions, comments?
The water concerns me. The drinking water availability concerns me. I think it is kind of disingenuous that we can just put on an application, Texas Water is going to provide our water, but they haven't said they're going to provide you water. Texas, from what I have been told, and I could be wrong, you haven't approached Texas Water for water. So, are they really providing you water? Because they're saying they're not going to be able to provide water for 4 to 7 years. Why are we approving something 4 to 7 years out when there is no water? That's my question.
We have had conversations with Texas Water Company. I'm not sure who told you that we did not. We have had, it was all because of the moratorium that's in place. Our pitch is simple. We can offer what the other guys can't offer.
How can you offer it when there's no water?
There is water. Obviously, they're putting pumps because there's water that they need to distribute. They do have water. It's just that they are picking strategically where they are going to be, how they can best use the water that they currently have in terms of distribution and optimize that network, right? in terms of us lying about it, we did not lie about
No,
it.
I didn't say you're
Because-
lying.
Yeah, so what we said, Texas Water Company is the one providing the service because they are the ones that provide the service in this area. We have had conversations with them. They did not say they like our conservation plan. They believe our conservation plan is progressive. We're actually, we believe we're setting a standard that nobody else has set in this area.
What would enforce that?
Well, so in the ordinance, as we put in an ordinance that we are requiring, not at the HOA level, all right, but at an ordinance level, we're requiring zero escaping. We're requiring rainwater collection, right, for every lot. That becomes, if it's in the ordinance, it becomes an enforceable bylaw. It's not part of the zoning process. It's part of the zoning, right? So you can have enforceability based on anything inside the code. It becomes part of the code for that particular area, right? So we believe by going the extra step of including this, not in some kind of an HOA agreement, that we put it in the ordinance, that makes it enforceable, right? In terms of, the third thing that is not enforceable, you're absolutely right, is the intention and that we are wanting to reuse water that is being collected from the retention pond for irrigation purposes for those low-lying lots, okay? And we are willing to invest in pumps to be able to put this back on so that we're minimizing the consumption as much as possible. We believe also, and that's actually, I walked out and I was talking to the guys from Texas Water Company. We believe our property is perfect for what they're looking for, and they don't have to pay extra money for it. We're dedicated already 1 acre for that. We would be willing to work with them, with the city, on a design that works for everybody. We believe we can make it on the ground, potentially, I don't know, our engineers may cringe on that. Maybe have some of it underground, some of it overground. So we just need to know the parameters, and that's obviously a different conversation. But we believe we have more to offer the Texas Water Company than anybody else. I believe that is our ticket to be able to get water faster than everybody else. Just in a nutshell. Does that answer your question?
So you think if you provide a site form and tell them you can put your water tank here, that they're gonna jump over I believe it's 12 subdivisions now that they've said that they're not gonna provide water to. Started out as 9, I believe it's all the way up to 12. And provide water to your development instead? Sounds like a mega lawsuit. What do we know?
Do we know? Well, is anybody else able to provide FOPO that we have?
Well, I'm sure they could.
Well, then they would get priority. I was retrospectively, right? So what we're asking for here is something independent from the availability of the water, is the use of the land. And if we are not able to do that, that's on us. We're the losers. We're the ones that lose, ultimately. City has nothing to lose. Do you agree with me on that?
In this instance, yeah.
Yeah. So so if
Because if you can't develop it, because you don't have water.
That's exactly right.
That's why I think it's, maybe not a right question to even ask, because you don't have the water to build it.
Well, the thing is, to start with being able to put an application into the Texas Water Company, we need the proper zoning. We will have to have the site plan, otherwise we have no project. So it's the catch-22, right? For us, we are the ones making the investment in land and engineering and everybody that you see
I
here.
think we all admit to put in a significant investment in time and in money to make this happen as far as it is.
Correct. And we don't do it blindly. Trust me, we're seasoned developers. We know our risk. We measure our risk very carefully. We can't afford to mess up. We can't. One project can take us down, and we will not allow that to happen. We have a lot of cash in terms of and a lot of assets. We are unencumbered, zero debt, right? But we do not want to make big mistakes like this. And trust me, if we thought this is a mistake or our risk is too high, we would not be doing this.
I have a question about your drainage. Was it just a preliminary drainage analysis, or is it a complete drainage study done?
We did everything to the standards as if this was going to be platted. So with all the information that we have, so we looked at what is the pre-project land use, what is the soils, what is the proposed land use, soils, the change in runoff, speed, velocity, and also did the entire RG 348 for the CZP, so the water quality aspect. When he asked me to do it, I said, hey, this is a plating phase kind of thing. You sure you want to pay me to do this? And we did it. So RG 348 CZP counts for the retention, that couple inches that we were talking about, that was designed for TCQ standards. As for the flood study, that was done for y'all's stormwater requirement. That was all the way up through the 100-year.
So, Danny, I have a question for you real quick. So what was submitted for the drainage analysis here? Would that be?
Nothing's been submitted to the city.
Well,
I mean,
I'm sorry, okay.
They've made presentations based on their findings, but I can't verify anything they've said.
Because nothing's actually
been submitted or, yeah. And
why
not-
would we have submitted this stuff?
Is it required at this
It's
stage?
only council
It's
can
optional.
require it. Yeah, so council can require it, but, we can't review it unless we also get authorized to receive it and charge fees to have it reviewed. Because the initial application fee doesn't cover any of that. Right.
Yeah, can I piggyback off on something you said previously?
Sure.
Danny, we're talking about irrigating with retained water. My knowledge, you're just the site developer, right?
Is this for me? I'm sorry.
But since you're the site developer, you don't have any oversight on what the home builder does. So how can we enforce that going forward?
You're talking about the irrigation?
Irrigating with retained water.
Well, this is the intent, and this is, if we can find a mechanism to just maybe define what that looks like, which lots would be more the best candidates for that. Obviously, we're not gonna push water all the way up for irrigation. We're gonna cover as much as possible and do it responsibly in such a way that is not gonna put the project down, but be able to do the irrigation and benefit from something that nobody else is doing. Right, so the concept, so we're pursuing the concept. I'm not skating, we're pursuing the concept. And what we are doing is we did not get there in terms of finding exactly which lots we're gonna be able to do and which lots we're not gonna be able to do. Honestly, that's an expense at this point in time that.
Understood. I think the question is different. You're the
Sorry.
site, you're the site
developer,
developer.
you're not the home builder.
You're not the home builder, so how do we enforce that?
And my question for Danny was, I figured, is there a mechanism here, like an ordinance to ensure that gets followed through in the future?
That's an open question that would happen. We get legal review of that if you give us a green light to draft an ordinance. Because there's not fees to get answers to questions like that. It's not something I've seen before. A city
It's
requiring.
just, it's a great idea. We're just gonna have to ask the home builder to go through that.
If it's something we legally can enforce, we'd incorporate into the ordinance and make it a condition of receiving the building permit. But that's an open question.
Mr. Hayes, did you have a question?
I have a question. Have you discussed your potential development with the ISD? I know that Johnson Ranch, gentleman mentioned that his daughter was at Johnson Ranch. Do you realize that school right now is 297 students over capacity? And the brand new Bulverde Middle School that just opened is already 97 over capacity. Where are these kids gonna go? Now, I know that's not 100% your problem. You know, you don't build schools, but
We had a conversation. We attempted a conversation with the ISD on a couple of occasions. We did not get a response back.
Can you speak up just a little bit?
I'm sorry. We attempted to reach out to the ISD. At least I attempted once, and I didn't get a response back. What I can tell you is from an economic perspective, we believe the ISD would get something north of $600,000-700,000, probably more, I believe, over $1 million out of this development. With demographics that are going to be, actually, I have the math. Would you mind going to the end of the presentation? Just the very, very end. I have the math.
Can you turn the mic back on?
yeah, I think it turned off.
Sorry.
I think it turned off after it's
Time's out.
There we
You're
go.
better? Yeah,
Thank
sorry. And I'm soft-spoken with an accent.
Yeah.
Okay. There we go. All right, so just to be clear then, in terms of the ISD, if we were to look at final, I think that would be like one of the last slides. We have looked and calculated how much the impact is going to be. And again, when we look at our demographics, do a market study, we generally have a profile of 75, right? That profile includes about 20% people with young children, right? When you're looking at the income level of $350,000 or $250,000, you're going to find mostly older folks that are going to be able to afford the living home, right? So we believe the impact. This is the ISD. No, that's the city tax. Do you mind going further?
There.
That is the ISD. The ISD will get $1.7 million injection a year from this development, with very little utilization, as per our estimates. This is going to be a very good thing for things.
Yeah.
And in terms of the city budget, we'll just go back. We looked at the budget. We always like to look at budgets of the cities. Actually, down, just back to this one here. Thank you. So when you look at how much $233 million in appraised value is going to bring to the city and the impact that it will have on the current budget, and how that money can be utilized, right? In terms of emergency services, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of public safety in general. We believe this project is good. It's good for the city. People may not like it. It's emotional. Fair enough. We see this all day long, and we respect that. It's not like we're saying, "Oh, these people have no." I was one of those people in my younger days, but it came to our first house. We just
Understood. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Mr. Hayes, did you have any more questions? You do not.
This
Okay. Mr. Goff,
So with the PDD,
is your mic on?
with the PDD, what's the enforceability of the drainage study that's going to come? Because you've already done all the legwork and plating. You just have to expound on that after plating, correct?
So when they actually come into plat is when they would submit a drainage study developed under our code, and our third-party engineers would review it for compliance.
And that's the opportunity for us to really run that around, ensure that it's designed to be met here.
Well, I mean, you could do that now. Council could require that as part of the PDD process, or you can defer it, or we would do it in the normal process with the plating.
The normal process is downstream of tonight's decision.
The normal process, yeah.
But we would have the option of requiring it at this stage, is what he's saying.
That's really my primary concern is everyone downstream, because the Party Ranch is one big funnel.
Yep.
Everyone in Johnson Ranch is going to get hit, and there's going to be this steep slope ability to cut into that as necessary for the roads, which is going to have a significant impact on drainage. I just want to ensure that everything that can possibly be done to mitigate any storm runoff will be evaluated and approved as necessary. I can speak more to that, Chris. Can you go up a couple slides where it shows the house on the path? One more. Okay, that's another thing. Go up again. Yeah, this one, with your unlimited cut here, Chris is talking about draining rainwater. The house being in a hole like that is going to channelize water towards the house or not?
That's not even the one I'm concerned with.
Well,
I'm not saying specifically to individual lots, I'm just saying as you look at a proposed project, any disturbance to the slope is going to cause some.
So, I guess, the normal process is whenever this gets to plating, every ditch, every storm drain, every detention pond, the retention facility, all of that is going to be reviewed by your third-party engineer, and the developer is going to have to pay $10,000 or so. I don't know the exact number for that review. That's the normal process.
I ask you to speak into the microphone.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. I'm
which
used,
has gone off again. I'm sorry, we have people watching it.
we're recording.
Yes.
I'm sorry. So,
There we go.
sorry about that. So at the time, turned off again. I'm sorry.
I'm so
that's
sorry.
For the folks at home, the little one is actually the one that
Is that, okay,
this little microphone
I'll stop
here
and tell you about it.
Is the one that the folks at home are hearing through.
Okay, so at the time of plating, there will be a tier 2 drainage analysis submitted. Every storm drain, every ditch is going to be reviewed. It's going to be constructed per the Bulverde Stormwater Criteria Manual, and TCEQ is also going to review it. We went above and beyond, and we did stuff that is not typical for this phase of it, and I believe that this project can be safe. It's constructible. He needed really good cost estimates to make sure that he could get funding for this project and that it was financially viable. So we spent a lot of time on this. And I'd say another benefit of this project is we're going to be 1 acre sites versus half-acre sites. So it's going to have a smaller impervious coverage percentage. We tried to limit the amount of impervious coverage that we'd be proposing for this project, but all of that was taken into consideration for our preliminary drainage analysis that we did. As for submitting another one with this PDD, I imagine whenever it goes to plating that another drainage analysis would be required because there's going to be changes when you do the detailed grading required at plating. So I think that your code for the plating phase is sufficient to make sure that this project is safe.
Okay.
That's my only concern.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kramer.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little about the street geometry. So if you go to the overview that shows the lots or the pad sites, that one for me. One more. One where it shows that pad sites on the lot. I think it's further.
Oh, there it is. One more.
Yeah, so we're looking here. Okay, street geometry. For one, I mean, you've got, there's so much junk in here. Just starting off, all these home sites here on the southern end of the neighborhood, they're so close to the street, the pad site. You can have cars parked on the street, stuff like that. A lot of people don't realize just how much garbage trucks weigh. I mean, they weigh, when they're working, they're 50, 60,000 pounds. You start messing with the geometry combined with cars parked on the street and the limited cul-de-sac geometry. You're going to have garbage trucks going back and forth. They're not going to be able to turn around. They're going to be pivoting, be tearing the streets up. So, in my opinion, the only way to fix this is you're going to have to gate the neighborhood. Maintain your streets privately. If you're going to mess with the street geometry, I don't want the city to be maintaining the streets because there's not enough room for garbage trucks to turn around. You do their work, and also fire trucks, the long wheelbase trucks and stuff like that. Are they going to be going into the oncoming of some of these cul-de-sacs and the turnarounds? So.
Hi, my name's Brooke. I'm with Pape Dawson. Just speaking to the geometry, I do think one thing to note is that you're looking at a plan and not really getting a sense of the scale of the driveways. Remember, there's at least a minimum of a 50-foot setback required. So you're at a minimum going to have a 50-foot driveway before you can even get to the house. I would doubt that you would see a lot of cars on streets just because people aren't going to walk that far to their houses. So given the setbacks on this house, I don't think you would see many cars on the street.
Other questions?
This will be a gated community, correct? Wasn't?
No.
No.
Oh.
Public streets.
Well, if it's going to be public streets, it needs to follow our complete street plan. Otherwise, you make a
You're
gated.
going to start messing with the geometry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Krawick, other questions?
Yeah.
You talked about is the green buffer still on that? You still kept that in the plan? the quote unquote green buffer.
The green buffer. Oh, yeah, yeah, it's okay. If you look at this plan, you'll see, I'm colorblind, but you'll see that strip on the bottom.
So you just, it's on the bottom now, it's not bordered.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. When we redid the work, it often just flipped it. So you see, so Bulverde Hills now is on this development.
Right. And so it's,
Is this Wolverine Hill?
Yes.
This,
Bulverde Hills,
yeah,
on the bottom. Yeah,
so this is the green buffer?
that is correct, yes. That's 100 foot.
and that's just an easement that's not applying to water or anything.
That's right, so it's gonna be.
Just an easement.
Well,
So basically, like, untouched, basically, how would we qualify that?
I think we were gonna call it a, like a tree preservation easement.
Okay.
Or a clearing easement, I mean, we can talk to the city about how they want. to
Yeah, well,
define it, but-
state law changed a couple of years ago. The city can no longer, regulate tree removal on single family lots after the house is built. So there's no tree survey in that buffer, so combined with, there's a broad generalization of the canopy there, combined with no mechanism to enforce it, I mean, that's not always feasible, so.
Well, I think that's why we're gonna apply an easement on the back of the lot that has the, agreed upon language that prevents infrastructure from going in that area.
Well, like Goldsmith Thornwood, what they did there, they planted 100-foot wide lot, and they deeded it over to the HOA, and that's kind of their sort of greenbelt. That's a way better way of doing it, but I mean, we do have to know the lot.
Right, I think that's where the tricky part is on this, guys, as we have that 1 acre minimum requirement for the septic. We needed to be able to include it as part of the lot, but, certainly we're open, well, I don't want to speak for sure, but I think we're open to the language that would make the city comfortable that the easement is not gonna be developed.
Yeah, it won't be developing after the house is built.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do.
There's nothing we can do.
We can clean that up.
Well, if there is an easement, then we can do something about it, because the easement is going to be a preservation easement. They cannot touch it.
But I think that goes against state law, isn't that right, Dean?
It's my understanding, and even the HOA wants to can enforce, prohibit tree removal after, the owner occupies.
Even in a tree preservation easement?
That's my understanding is that.
Okay.
What if the easement is dedicated to a conservation? Like for
I
instance.
think it's an open question, is I think what it
Yes,
boils down to.
well, I know one thing.
I think it's because it's part of their land, you probably could, if there was a separate track back there, like Jason was talking about, that would be different. But you're actually telling somebody what they can't do on their land. And that's where I think the states come in and said, after the home's built.
Fair enough, and I think this is something worth exploring. But from what I understand, again, we need to explore it, is that if there's an easement that's dedicated to a specific entity, be it a conservation entity, on your land, then that becomes, although you own it, that dedication remains and that easement basically would be enforced for conservation purposes.
But that's for individual property owners to wrestle on their own, correct?
Yeah, that's, I think not something we can enforce.
Right.
Well, unless we have that as part of the plan.
But I think then that boils down, I think that then becomes an open legal question we'd have to explore.
Yeah, so it's platted with the easement.
Yeah.
This buffer, and then it's incumbent upon the individual property owners who want to clear cut back their fence line challenge. Is that fair to say?
When they're buying the lot with the easement.
Right.
They understand.
Yeah, and then they
what
say,
have.
okay, it's a legal easement, that's not enforceable, whatever, and they buy it, and later on down the line, they clear cut, and then they can challenge it in court. If someone says, hey, you should have done that. Is that logically how it would play out?
Well, we need to.
That's a
That's why we have
I think,
in the room, right?
I think,
Contradicts state law.
yeah, I mean, I think it's not
You wanna have-
clear.
Yeah.
Mr. Kravitz,
I'm
other
gonna
questions?
ask our attorney to just maybe come up and answer that question, see if he would have
Okay.
perspective.
Patrick Christensen, land use attorney. I did the original zoning for this property back in 2017 for dash interest. There's a distinction between the city enforcing it, their tree ordinances on a person's property when they buy the house, they move in. You're correct. The city can't stop putting a pool where they want it because there's a tree there. A dedicated easement, a platted easement that says this is a tree safe area, a water quality protection area, those kind of things can be enforced by the homeowners association against them.
But not by the city.
Not by the city.
Correct. Okay, thank you for clarifying. Mr. Kravitz, did you have more questions?
I could hand it off because
Hey, Mr. Hawkins?
I have one question for Samantha. During the time that you owned this property and looked at all these varying types of development, have you ever considered or done a financial analysis considering R1 as opposed to R2 or R3?
Yes, we have. R1 would have been so easy, 5 acre lots, right? Yes. Yeah, it just doesn't, the financial analysis was absolutely no because of so the development of a property like this, when you are developing 320 acres, you need to put the roads in. You need to be cutting for the roads the same way and filling the same way as if you have 1 acre lots and if you did 5 acre lots, right? You need the same installations. You need all the stuff that you normally would need to be able to get the development up and running with 1 acre lots. You will have to do with 5 acre lots. The difference is now we have the same cost spread out on way lesser number of lots than what we would have with 233. Same thing applies for if we were to maintain the R3, do R2, R3. Our cost for development would be divided by way more number of lots, which would mean that ultimately we can make those lots way more affordable. If we are to do 5 acre lots and our cost is going to be going to buy a lot for $1 million. Yeah. Well, this means you're getting homes that are north of $2 million, and then we're limiting our market drastically, right? So that's not the market we can play in. That's not the market that honestly anybody can play in with those kind of costs. That market doesn't exist. 5 acre lots, $2 million homes.
Okay, so how did Centennial Ridge manage to pull that off?
I'm sorry?
How did Centennial Ridge manage to pull that off?
Well, I tell you, we looked at it. You asked me if we looked at it. We could not do it. We couldn't do it. Like if we had an easy out, we would have done it. Okay. Because it's less lot to sell. I know, but you know, for us, it's if we can get it done faster, easier, we would get it done as long as we're making a little bit of money on it. But we cannot do it at a loss.
Yeah, sure.
All right. All the rest of my comments are directed.
I have a statement. I did my homework. Council is not permitted to deny a zoning request just because it's unpopular. Our job as Bulverde's elected representatives is to ensure our ordinances and our comprehensive plan reflect both the community's wishes and our authority under the law. The law then requires us to base our decisions on whether a given zoning request follows those ordinances and aligns with our comprehensive plan. In my opinion, this application does not meet that standard. I say that recognizing how much work you have put into this at this point. Here are my concerns. We do not have a tree inventory or survey that covers the entirety of the disturbed areas, let alone the entire site. That's going to have an impact on your request for tree removal. You are requesting extensive exemptions on tree removal, and it effectively bypasses our tree preservation framework. The reason for the tree preservation framework is not merely aesthetic. Preservation of those trees impacts soil erosion and drainage. You are making extensive requests to waive slope protections and allow grading on steep terrain that our ordinances are designed to protect. Your plan represents significant encroachments into riparian buffers, and we then have the added complication that those encroachments are folded into private property, private backyards, which makes it extremely difficult or impossible for us to monitor. Your parkland plan, and I mean no offense, appears to rely primarily on what's left over. And I am concerned that that does not offer real recreational value either to this community or to the neighborhood. Your roadway variances could potentially have a seriously negative impact on our ability to provide public safety and emergency services to the people you hope to attract to this community. Lastly, both Local Government Code 211.004 and our comprehensive plan make absolutely clear that zoning matters must be addressed holistically. We must ensure that council actions lessen congestion, promote health and safety, and protect property values. That's a direct quote, including those of existing neighborhoods. It is my understanding that we have not been provided your full engineering drainage report or the technical assumptions that underlie it. Combined with the requested grading and buffer encroachments, I think this leaves us without the information that we would need to anticipate how drainage will function across the site or affect the downstream neighbors. In short, I do not see, personally, speaking for myself, how we could responsibly grant this many variances at this stage in the process, let alone so close to established homes, without better data-driven understanding of their cumulative impact on drainage, flooding, erosion, traffic, and emergency services. Respectfully, sir, unfortunately, I cannot support this PDD as it is currently presented.
I totally respect that. And what we would like to ask you is, what is it that you would need?
At this point,
at this point, what we are willing to do, I will tell you what we are willing to do, absolutely. We believe we do have a trees inventory or have a tree survey. Tree inventory is for the whole property. You said it wasn't. The initial one was 10% of the property. The second one we did after the September 2nd and leading up to October 2nd was a full.
Respectfully, I think it would be inappropriate for you to try to address every one of my concerns. I'm one of 6. I'd like to, if I may, just interrupt you long enough to ask the question. Danny, the presentation from staff said in the memorandum that you were not asking us to vote on this PDD tonight. You were instead asking us what?
Well, we are asking you to let us know if you're willing to approve this or not. If the answer is no, then you should vote against it and the process will end tonight. If the answer is yes, you need to outline for staff what provisions you want to see in an ordinance, vote on that, so that we can take that to the attorneys, draft an ordinance, and bring it back for final consideration.
So can I get some clarity on what you mean by vote on this? Are you saying
This application.
in this application as it is presented?
Yes.
And if we deny it, then how? So I have expressed some very specific concerns. I think members of the community have expressed specific concerns. What is the mechanism by which Samir and his team would have the opportunity to address those? Do they reapply? I'd like to understand what that looks like.
Well, some of those are going to be difficult to address because, like, for instance, if you want to see a drainage report, that requires final design on the streets and the drainage facilities. I won't speak for them, but it would be an enormous task to design a neighborhood without the authorization to build it. And so I don't know that that would be a practical solution. You know,
even though our ordinance does allow us to ask for that.
It does, but also remember PDD covers a vast array of.
Right, this really should have never been a PDD. This should have been a development.
Well, development agreements aren't authorized in
the
city
limits. Those only apply in the ETJ.
So you could require it.
Right.
I'm just saying that it may not be practical for the applicant to do that on this scale. Maybe it is. I won't speak for them. You could give them direction on what you want to see to come back. You have that authority. You could vote that way if you want, but the process is going to kind of go sideways for a while that's developed, and then I'm not really sure when it would come back. As long as you're sure that it's possible that what they produce could change your mind. If you've seen enough, if members of council have seen enough that they don't think they can support this project, then that wouldn't be a wise course to require the applicant to incur additional.
I don't want to ask them to incur additional expenses.
And on something that if you see concerns, and I don't know that anyone has or expressed that they see concerns that can't be remedied outside of the regular process. Because normally what would happen is someone would get an authorization for the use and then wait till the platting stage to ask for the variance, where you'd come in at each plat and you'd see this road is going to turn this way at this specific location. And in this location, it's gonna be less right of way versus the more global approach that's been requested here.
So we do have an opportunity to get into the weeds later on.
You do if they, but the
But in the meantime, they've asked for significant,
right, the developer wants to mitigate his risk, so he's asking for it all up.
he's asking for variance at the front,
And you don't have to approve that. But that's the ask.
Mr. Castro, I'm curious to know if you have any thoughts that you would like to share.
No, not at this point.
Other comments or questions?
I don't think it gets any closer to the mark, honestly. I've seen the amount of effort that's been put into this concept. I want to see this thing come to life. If it takes us approving a PDD to make it happen with the ability to mitigate the concerns that we've all discussed tonight, I think we have something good here. That's my opinion. That's where my heart is. I've been looking at this. I've been wrestling with it. I've been looking at my neighbors and what you feel on it. And I've listened to everyone that sent me correspondence in opposition and listened to folks that have supported it. And I still feel strongly that this is in line with what Bulverde needs to adopt as our evolution. And when we grow, we're going to grow. And there's so many concessions to bring it to this level right here. I think this is in line with what we wanted to see Bulverde grow as. That's my opinion. And I just need assurances that through the plating, we can address those individual issues that we had. We're talking about drainage and then talking about the riparian buffer. Those items, if they can be addressed and ordinances can be put in place to give us teeth to enforce some of the things like xeriscape and such, then we should probably support this project and continue it through. That's where my heart is.
All right, well, I'm gonna disagree with that. I think this is a premier property. As you come in, heading north on 281, you're looking on two sides of the hill. You see Johnson Ranch, where it's been developed on that top side of the hill. You see what's been developed with what is right now McCarty Ranch, one house on top of the hill. Now, it doesn't take a lot for me to envision that when this is going to be developed, the two sides of that hill with the cuts and the rooftops are going to look exactly the same. We will lose the opportunity for this to be a premier showplace property for the city of Bulverde. In my opinion, this property should be developed more like Hills of the Dominion, Clubs of Cordillera, or Centennial Ridge. That's a premier property. Yeah, you're right. Those are multi-million-dollar properties. I'll never be able to afford to live there, but somebody can, because they already do. Centennial Ridge sold out in 1 year. So, I don't want to. It's not personal, Chris. I just see a different vision for that problem. I see an upscale vision, something that the city of Bulverde would be proud of. When I talked to people at National Night Out, when I was going around, nobody had the vision. Nobody had this vision that they expressed to me, like what we see here displayed out here. They had a very different vision for what they felt should be on that.
I think that this is the only thing that's going to bring it to life at all. In line with what we're accustomed to seeing here in Bulverde, it's going to have to be individually parceled out. They're going to have to just cut up the whole thing, and people are going to have to buy individual lots and then figure out where they're going to get their water. So there's going to be a million straws in the ground, and here's
the concern, right?
Just let me argue that. One quick second. Okay, I live on a 2-acre lot. It was built in 1994. Would never be able to be built today based on city ordinance. How it was built in 94. It's a steep slope. I've got 40 to 50 feet runoff east to west. I've got 30 to 40 feet north to south. I sat and looked through the topographicals for every one of these lots. 40 to 50% of these lots are as bad or worse than mine. Okay, my lot, my property, my house is slightly off the side of that hill. I've already spent $16,000 in having concrete piers, actually had a hydrologist come out and tell me that they needed to trench 5 feet down to the ground, put a concrete retaining wall underneath the ground to stop the flow of water that's moving my house off that hill. Now, are we doing this, people that are going to buy these lots and have no knowledge of what I've learned in 25 years of living on a hill, any favors if we do this?
I mean, you just look at this picture right here, this riparian buffer. Where's the, well, I guess that's the
This
east
is
side.
west,
Yeah.
north.
So
Is this
so-
west?
Look to this side, this is north and this is west.
Yeah, yeah.
Those houses are at the headwaters of the area, that's all fine, but down here, those houses are feeding into the retention pond. I mean, it all channelizes into their backyard.
I think the biggest issue, frankly, is the degree of variance you're requesting on the cut and fill. Can I ask you how many type C lots? You provided us with pictures, type A and type C. How many type C lots are you contemplating?
So-
Like each was just like.
Those are grading designations that are standard for engineering. So what that means is a C lot is basically a lot that drains from the front of the house to the back of the house.
I'm asking a different question. Let's pull the picture up.
Well, it's basically gonna be any lot that's adjacent to the riparian buffer. Those
Well, the
C lots.
drawing was supposed to, had to do with, yeah, so right here, this is a cut and fill. This is a lot grading issue, right? There's a massive difference between a type A lot. I could get behind grading that looks like that. I wanna know how many type C lots you're contemplating.
Well, I think that example right there, and we don't have elevations shown on that typical one, but the typical one, we're trying to say that we're not asking for any additional variances from what's already allowed in the code. Like
The
typically
type-
we can.
But type C is already exceeds what is permitted in our ordinance.
Not on the typical one. The typical one, you can't, we don't have a scale on that one actually, so you can't,
Yeah, what's
there's
that?
no depths on it. That's
Like a
on this
440.
one, we're
And the
telling
problem
you.
is with a house built on them,
Let her,
it's built.
let her answer.
Well, yeah, so we wanted to show you the extreme cases too.
Wow.
That is an extreme case.
I'm
where there are
asking how many,
We can go back and quantify it if you want. I don't know the number off the top of my head.
but that's my point, right? Is that you're asking for you're asking for pretty extensive variances on cut and fill, which is going to have an impact downstream, and we can't quantify it. So
Well,
you're
and I guess-
asking us to approve it now and figure out what the impact is gonna be later, and I think that's where we're struggling.
Well, there's
Sure,
that.
and can I just make one point? Your current ordinance doesn't have restrictions on cut and fill of the pad. So that's not something we're asking for. It's coming up to the pad where the variances are being asked for.
Yeah, I mean, a house built on that still is gonna settle with grading, but I guess that's, you're the site developer, not the home builder, so.
I'm a site engineer, not a home builder, so you're right. They would have to engage with the geotechnical engineer to make sure that the foundations were appropriately designed. They'd have to have a structural engineer to make sure that the foundations were appropriately designed. All those things would have to be submitted for.
It's just a
Okay.
it's property forward. I mean, that's what you're doing.
Do we see a way forward, guys? Do we wanna make a motion?
May I just finish answering the one question? Sure. In terms of, you were mentioning lots to consider.
I'm sorry,
There are
can you
three-
speak
there are
up just
three-
a little bit?
I'm sorry, is this again?
Yeah, it's
There you go.
okay. It's all right, just speak up, it's
It's
fine.
done. There you go.
There we go.
Got it. All right, so there are three ways generally that council can vote. You can approve, you can deny, or you can approve with conditions, right? So we are willing collaborator. We want to work with you. We understand, same with the planning and zoning commission, your concerns. And once we understood the concerns, we're happy to work with you on addressing those concerns. So all we ask of you is if you believe those concerns can be addressed. One can table the item, one can approve the conditions, one can deny it or approve it. There are four ways to deal with this. So if you'd like to table it and allow us a chance to, if you want to communicate your concerns, we're happy to entertain them. We'll be back with a proposal as to how we address these concerns. Because honestly, we are planning to continue on this. We don't want to cut, we have too much to lose in order for us to just not address your concerns, which we believe are not a lot for us, a lot of effort. We've done a lot of effort already. We can put a little bit more effort into this.
I would like to be very clear that we recognize the effort that you've put in.
Thank you very much.
It does not mitigate the concern
Well,
remaining on
absolutely.
the table.
And this is what I'm offering you is a chance for us to collaborate. We are a willing participant. If you can table the item, or if you can table it in such a way that you allow us some level of communication as to what those concerns are, and we will come back with a plan to address those concerns. Is that a fair ask?
I hear you. I think it's very difficult. I will speak for myself. I have made the decision not to speak with developers outside of this venue because I feel, just to be clear, I feel we have an obligation to the community to do everything publicly and transparently so that they can understand what's happening. I am open to suggestions about how we can put you in a room collaboratively with people who can address the concerns you've heard spoken tonight, which I think are reflective of what you would hear in a private meeting. I'm absolutely open to suggestions to how we do that. Apart from that, though, I am afraid this is not a venue where we can impose conditions. This may be something we kick back to planning and zoning and ask planning and zoning, having heard the concerns of council. Council, planning and zoning is an advisory board, and perhaps the solution, Danny, I don't know, is for us to say, we've expressed our concerns. We want the planning and zoning commission to work with them to come up with a different recommendation.
You're welcome to table it.
Is that
At this point, because we've been going around for a long time on this.
Understood.
I would suggest that council should provide very specific direction on what you want to see, what they need to provide, and what you want P&Z to analyze. It needs to change. If we come back to council, whatever they provide needs to change. We don't need to have this discussion again,
Understood.
right? So you need to be clear about what your concerns are, what they could do to inform those concerns, and then we'd come back. But we need that direction at the very least.
Well, I can offer you some solutions.
give me a second. Sure. Matt, would something like a council and planning and zoning workshop be appropriate for that conversation?
Possibly, I would have to look into the specifics of it. I could look into it if that's what you like.
I feel that at this point, as it stands tonight, we're probably looking at a denial. We would need to make a motion and take a vote. Thoughts?
We're hoping that you table it to allow us a chance, for everybody to allow a chance to have conversations on potential next steps.
You want to make a motion? Yeah.
I'd like to just mention that you're going to need 4 votes to do anything.
Understood.
Just a reminder.
So that water storage change.
Excuse me, I would like to exercise a right to table this item before we vote. Thank you.
So they don't have a right to table an item. This is council's item now. They decide on that. Yeah. You cannot withdraw now. You need to do that with 1 meeting.
Not withdraw.
You don't have the right to table only members of council.
Well then, sorry, we were under the wrong impression. How about this? We'll leave it to you. Our true hope is that you allow for conversation on this. We've all spent a lot of effort. Planning and zoning has spent a lot of effort on it. The public has spent a lot of effort on it. We want to do what's right. We really do. We're not here to snow anybody. We're here to work with you. We've demonstrated that. If you allow, maybe you want to just allow a chance for council to come back for the city attorney to come back and give solutions. Maybe it is possible for us to have a joint committee where conversation can happen. I just hate to see all of us, fail because of protocol we have the ability to create dialogue. And with the help of the city attorney, I believe we can. And I believe if you allow us that chance, then you can decide if we are willing to do what you're asking us to do or not. So we just ask for your leniency, please, so that you're not denying tonight. Because if you deny tonight, we can come back for another 6 months of the year by the code, just so we know. We can't just turn around and come back. When you deny us, we're done. That's the power you have. Done. This project is done. So if you believe there's some hope for this project, I can tell you, we can work with you on providing the trees, all the address all your issues on the trees. I can guarantee you that because we have a lot of data that we didn't have a chance to show. We believe we can address all your issues on drainage. Yeah, guaranteed we can do that. We believe we can address your issues on cut and fill. So if you allow us that chance to dialogue, we are willing to invest more and more into making sure that you have all your questions addressed. If you just allow the city attorney to come back to us with the mechanism on how we can do this, we'd be very grateful.
I hear you. Thank you. I need a motion.
Well, I'll make a motion. I feel pretty strongly about this. I make a motion to approve consideration for the approval of an ordinance of the establishment of PUD with a base zoning of R2 residential district for approximately 329 acres, generally located 1 mile north of the intersection of Highway 281 and FM 1863, Bulverde, Texas. That means 163, amending the zoning ordinance, directing the amendment of the zoning map, dealing with conflicting ordinances, and providing a severability clause and an effective date.
Directing staff to draft such an ordinance and bring it back to future consideration.
Directing staff to
draft an ordinance.
Draft an ordinance.
In accordance with your motion.
In accordance with this motion.
And bring it back for future consideration.
And bring it back for future consideration. Thank you, Danny.
Yes, sir.
Motion fails for lack of a second. Ted?
I'll make a motion that we disapprove the ordinance, will not approve the ordinance for an establishment of PDD plan development district based zoning of R2 residential district for approximately 329 acres, generally located 1 mile north of the intersection of Highway 281, FM 63, Bulverde, Texas, 78163. Amending the zoning ordinance, directing the amendment of the zoning map, dealing with conflicting ordinances and providing severability clause.
Second. Call the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-1. Will someone get there? This matter is closed at 9:48 p.m. Thank you. Yeah.
I understand. Motion was to deny That's all.
It's freezing in here.
It's freezing. It's not
Freezing.
where I was.
No, I'm good. Yeah, I'm in great shape.
So last item.
Councilmember Hopkins, for the rest.
No. We're continuing.
Where's Ted?
We were
The rest of
we are recessed.
You can tell what sign.
We're gonna keep moving on, right?
I'm ready.
Okay. So 3E, hold a public hearing to consider the approval of an ordinance granting a variance to section 3.08.102A3 and section 3.08.102A4 of the City of Bulverde Code of Ordinance at 427 Union of Spring Branch, Texas 78070.
Mayor and members of council, you considered this variance originally back at, I believe it was July city council meeting, no, June 10th city council meeting. If you recall, this business had originally sought a variance to put a sign on this blade feature of the building. Council was not willing to consider that variance, but they did postpone the item and give the applicant the opportunity to come back and present a sign on the front facade of the building. They did provide images of that. We go to the next one. But during the process of analyzing this, the applicant has decided that this is not an acceptable result for them. So instead, they are asking for additional variance considerations for the blade sign. They've come back with a smaller sign just facing north, and then another option of the same sign on both sides of the blade. I'm going to turn it over to the applicant to discuss the item with council.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging in there with
I'm
us.
sorry you had to
No, that's okay. That's what the work that you guys do is commendable. My name is Sarah Teal, and I actually represent the business being harmed by not having a visible sign, 7 to 7 Dental. Dr. Perez is here with her husband. She is the actual builder of the building, and I'm here obviously also assisting in representing the cause here. I want to start because I was present during the other presentations that were done by the individual that was helping her through her development process, because I didn't feel like you guys understood that you were given the information of how we kind of got here. So I want to just very quickly, I won't take long, I promise. But this has actually been a compounded situation here. Dr. Perez, when she designed her building, she designed the building with the intent to have a tenant in the rear part of the building. She is a pediatric dentist and made sure that to work with her architect and through your development and planning department to come up with a concept of a building that would allow her to have a resident in the back to help not only feed some of her business, but also help support the investment she was making in the building. Dr. Perez is a local pediatric dentist, not a national company. 7 to 7 is a San Antonio only company as well. It seemed like a nice collective marriage there. 7 to 7 provides general dentistry and orthodontics. Dr. Perez takes care of the little kiddos that 7 to 7 doesn't provide for. The two groups got together, discussed how this was working, and the main issue that 7 to 7 had was that because that she was a single building in a row of what it will be 4 small single-story buildings, what did she do to design the building to allow for people to know about the tenant in the back? And she had gone through with the process of going into your program of your development division and your planning and zoning, and had believed that she was provided the ability to allow for that lifted panel to serve as a means to give identification of a rear tenant. Why does she feel like she had that? She attended those meetings with her architect, with the person that's helping her through the development, but also because she has, and I brought the front page of it, she has the full permitted set that's stamped that shows both on the rendering of the building, it shows to have tenant signage, and also on the cut exhibit of the building, it shows a notation about signage. It does say that the signage has to be approved through the process, but that was meant to understand, just like every other time a sign comes before, it has to go through permitting, and the sign has to be in ordinance with what is agreed. I provided Bailey, it's really, I want to apologize because I was in Houston when I found out that we needed to submit something. So I was at FedEx taking pictures off my phone. But if you'll roll through just very quickly, we are part of the Singing Hill. So these are all businesses in Singing Hill. These are all national companies that have raised panels with big signs on 4 different sides of the building that have all this light projecting, everything going on. We're a small business just trying to make sure that our patients can find us. We're not asking for being on every side of the building, because at the end of the day, when the buildings next door are built, there'll be no visibility to the sides of the building. That's, again, if you've driven through Singing Hills, we're one of those, Dr. Perez's building is one of those little guys. So you'll see here, what I did is I took my laser and measured how high those all were. They're higher than what we're asking. Dr. Perez did not build a tall, big building like these are being presented. She actually built a building that has a smaller facade. And so that raised panel looks like it's larger. It is not. When you look at the measurement that our signage guy put it at, our logo is 36 inches as the dimension, and it's only 20 feet off the ground. That's lower than most of the other national companies that have these huge signs and have all this going on. So what I wanted to bring back is, while I think that the way it was presented, it sounded like we were asking for something that didn't exist at that development. Really what the idea came up to solve this was because of these other buildings. Those buildings were there before Dr. Perez built. So that was the suggestion was, well, why don't you raise a panel and allow that to be some mechanism that people can say, okay, you can go out on a corner. When we were here, the discussion was, or the last presentation was, put something on the front. But then the argument was, well, that's going to confuse everyone because Dr. Perez is on the front. So now, where do the 7 to 7 patients, how do they know to go to the side if it's on the front of the building? All of Dr. Perez's office is the front. If you direct people to go to the front, they're going into her secondary exit emergency door. They're confused. By allowing them to see that 7 to 7 is there on the side, they do have a sign above their door in the back. But you, again, only see it once you go around to the back. So all we're asking is and we reduced it. We made it much smaller, and I'm not sure if it was mentioned, but we changed the look of it so that at nighttime, if you go back to the pictures that we initially submitted, it only shows the white circle. We took away the color. So if you click on that brown square is showing you what the night vision of that sign would be. It is simply a circle and just 7 to 7 in white. It really is more of like a directional sign, if anything else. We're certainly not, trying to be flashy or anything else. I showed some of the other smaller businesses for the nationals. You've got the Burger Kings and the Taco Bells and the Chili's and the Jimmy John's and those guys. But you also have some small companies. You've got a title company that has a raised, now there's this arch, but it's still a raised panel, and they're way up there. When I did my little laser measurement, they were like at 27. So we're really trying to just simply make it so that the patients can find us. That's really all we're trying to do. We don't have the ability to use the monument because the way that development is working is they only allow two, there's 4 pads and there's 2 monuments. Each monument has only 2 panels on both sides, and Dr. Perez has her panel. The other panel belongs to whoever's going to build on the land next door. There's no ability for us to put a panel out on the road. There's no other option to give people direction than this, and that's why we're only asking, again, we're reduced to being smaller than what we originally asked, matched to what other people were doing. We've come back to say, please just help us get an ability for people to see us. We've reduced our size. We've taken our color away at nighttime. We've reduced, we used exactly what you guys asked for, proposed the 2700K LED lighting. And again, we just put it on the panel only at that 20-foot distance off the ground, which is lower than even the guys. If you go through the slides where Jimmy John's, all those guys are, they're even high. And again, those are, the architects get kind of, interesting by making these little step twos to create some, if you keep going to the one that has the strip center, there you go. See the front there, see how those panels are bigger? Those are no different than this other panel in the raise, and those are, I gave you side vision. So the argument of, well, that's on the face of the building. Well, those other ones are on the side of the building. I mean, you've got a bunch of people that have 2 sides, Jimmy John's, James Avery and Wingstop have it on the front and on the side. You see, so that's all we're asking. I mean, I'm embarrassed that my presentation is so, I mean, I literally put it together at a FedEx because I didn't have my laptop with me. There's pictures of my thing. I would have been much more professional, but you know what? Sometimes less information is better to just again, express to you. I'm happy to show you, or if you guys want just the permit number to see that like the sign shows the tenant name, and it's a stamped name. She just assumed that I mean, they didn't realize that didn't mean that otherwise she wouldn't have spent the money building an elevated panel. There was no need for it. That was the solution everyone talked about to get past this rear tent.
That's a Bulverde City permit here?
Yeah, yes ma'am.
And it shows it on the blade?
Yes, yes ma'am. I guess
Well, now,
it shows it there.
Clarify.
Yeah.
That was not a permit for the sign, it was a permit for the
The whole
building. And
building.
they were told, this is not a permit for the sign, signs are a different package. And we've changed our policy since I took back over. We don't allow people to depict anything on a permit that's not being authorized by that permit. But that wasn't the policy with this originally
I
happened.
mean, and I don't want to hand stuff because I know you don't want to hand stuff, but I tried to blow this up, but you can see, I just took a big picture of this, and please refer to your own file, or I can email it and someone can refer. But it says tenant name on the blade. And then on this exhibit, which is one of the detailed exhibits, it talks about the name on the blade. So that's where the confusion, it was a miscommunication or misunderstanding. And here's where the problem comes in. We wouldn't have leased if we didn't have a visibility of signage. So it's in our lease that we have that right. 7 to 7, they're good, they're local. I know people, you see their lease, their places all over. I've known them since they were 2 people opening their first clinic. I've opened every single one. Their kids go to Piper. I mean, they're local people. They're not nationals. And they would have never leased that space without, I mean, I have all the communication from doctor and her representative that said, oh, no, the city gave it to us. We're good. And that was one of the conditions we signed on. And neither of these parties are litigious. They've been showing up together. I mean, I'm here with Dr. Fred sitting next to her all night, just hoping that you guys would let me tell the story. This is just a circumstantial, but I truly want to ask you to look at what's already at this major commercial facility and recognize that we're not asking outside of the already present signage that's there.
And can you differentiate, how like Taco Bell is different than this, just to explain it to us?
So, I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge of all the signs down there. Some of them were approved by variance. I believe Burger King's were. This one, in this case, Jimmy John's, both signs are over the tenant space. That's one of the key problems with this one is that it's not, and that's just an ordinance requirement. So Jimmy John's, Wingstop, James Avery, again, they're over the tenant space as required by the ordinance. This one is not. Chili's that's on the face of the building, over the door. Burger King's was a variance package, so was Whataburger's. And Taco Bell, I just don't remember if they have a variance or not. It's been so long. Thank you.
Looking at this,
So, Danny, so we go back to saying that, we're getting this same, it's gonna be the same thing now that everybody else has to do this, right? I don't know if you've gone up there at night and sat across the street from there, right? From where I sat across the street on the other side of the street. And there's a lot of light from that area. And we have changed our sign ordinances because of some of those signs that have been put up there. And I am going to say that I understand that if there was a misunderstanding, but we also knew that there was a fine variant ordinance that we had, right? So that was never included in that package. So for me, I want us to kind of stick close to what our new sign ordinances are and where they are to avoid some of that light, adding more light to the city. It oh my God. Now, you're saying that you removed colors?
Yeah, we reduced the illuminant all the way down and removed the colors because to address that. So
The illuminated colors. The sign still has colors in it.
yeah, during the day, the sign has color, and at nighttime, when it's illuminated, at the time that you're concerned, it has no color, so we're actually below your requirement of what every other sign is allowed. Because that was how we could basically, we reduced the size and we took away the different colors so that it could only be a white circle with the white line.
This is the backlight. I think that was a concern that we had when I was back here originally. So she's addressing that.
Danny, so tell me, how much over the space the size differentiates from?
I mean, this
Where
is,
we-
they already have the tenant sign they're allowed on the other side, so this
Correct.
is 100% in excess. Every part of this sign is excess. I don't know if it's 7.5 square feet, I believe.
Can I ask a question, though? Is that because there's two tenants in the building?
No, each tenant gets an allocation on their frontage over their space. So they have, the 77 Dental has utilized their full, allowance on their side of the building. The pediatric dentistry has their allowance over theirs. So, it's not just location, it's
It's a
size.
three-tenant building, right?
Yes. I said 310, it might have been designed originally as 3 tenants, but it ended up
We took both spaces.
I apologize, I'm confused, looking at these two pictures, where is the subject? Is it on this?
So 77 Dental is,
And where is the blade relative to that? So the idea is, and where is the entrance to 77?
so 77's entrance is right
I
here.
see, okay.
Originally, there was gonna be a tenant entrance here and a tenant's entrance there, and you would have had 2 signs on this side of the building. Or at least that's the way our code conceives it. They ended up taking both spots, so they put a door in there.
And there's already a sign on that facade?
Yes, you go like that, there it is.
And so the issue is that coming along Singing Oaks, you can't see that that's where they are?
Well, and there's buildings that have the ability to be built on either side. That's why we wouldn't have signed there without.
No, I'm understanding that. I'm just saying that the issue is that going along Singing Oaks.
Yeah, you can't see that.
From this direction, you can't see that 7 to 7.
Not only that, but Chihuahua is on the corner. So when you're coming up Singing Hill, Chihuahua's there. Chihuahua owns the next lot, which they're designing to have a building. Then is Dr. Perez's building. So when that, right now, the visibility is as you pass Chihuahua, then you can see.
Understood.
And then, but when they build a building there, they won't have that.
That's a pretty big sign, and it's clearly visible now going forward, but when.
But understood, right. So are you asking for signage on both sides of the blade or just one side of the blade?
The request is for both sides reduced to that. What only.
Exhibit B, which is one side, right? On the northeast.
What I
was confused. There's a couple of.
So we did, this is what was submitted.
Yeah.
Was 2 requests, one for it on both sides and one for it on only one.
Right.
If, depending on what council might do. That's what we ended up.
So your vision is only vision problem really is only for the one on the front side.
It translates out.
Right, for Singing Oaks. I mean,
Until the
until the other.
property is built, and then maybe
Yeah.
there's
Is it a problem?
not a problem
And
now.
there's no way to do anything with the lot on this side, because that would solve the problem.
If we could create a third, I don't know how that would work to get a third panel. Because it's not a normal monument sign, they're like cut panels.
Yeah.
And like I said, the one panel belongs to the other piece of dirt.
But they're nice and big.
They'd have to swap.
Yeah.
Pediatric would have to give up their space and give it to them.
That's what I said last time we was here, that
Why?
pediatric could move and 7 to 7 could move to a monument sign.
Since they have a front location,
That's not been offered.
then maybe
That's what I suggested.
that's what we suggest, that when, if they could move, since they have the front location and they have a sign on the front, then you could have the marketing sign. Not to create more signs.
That would have to be,
But this is what it's gonna look like, this here, proposed north and south elevation, this is what your ask is.
And then at nighttime, it's just that light.
Yeah, I don't see a big problem.
There's no issue here, this is a small business owner looking to improve their business, and this is a reasonable ask, I don't see this requires.
I think that they significantly reduced it.
Yeah, it complements that projection too, so.
I don't think I have those numbers in front of me.
I think we had them.
Anybody remember? Bailey, do you remember?
Let me see if I have it. I can get that for you, but I.
Pull up the council back in June 10th.
It's a shame we don't have a picture of the current sign, because it's really large, and at night it was neon blue.
This is a lot smaller. Yeah, I don't think you have drive access there. We'll have to work that council too. June 10th.
Thank you, Bailey.
Yeah, it was the last one.
Sorry to keep everybody so late.
Just grab it and pull it all the way down. That was a long meeting. Jason.
Yeah.
There it is. So that sign was 18 square and a half square.
And this is.
This is 7.5, that's less than that.
Which was a big concern we had.
Yeah, because it's huge. That's a massive difference. I couldn't.
In my opinion, this is exactly what we have variances for.
100%.
This is a specific instance where it needs the visibility because of the way it was there. Now, maybe, I think it's kind of poorly designed. Maybe they, instead of having them in the back, they should have been maybe side by side, and then it's like, but they did. Exactly. But.
Okay, so now they have 3 signs, right?
Depending on if you prove it on both sides of the blade, it'd be critical.
Danny, by right, they have to, by right, they could put it on the entrance of the building.
They've already done it.
They've already done it.
It's not on these pictures because it's moved out.
Yeah.
It's back behind, if their space doesn't start till beyond half.
Yeah, but they have this weird architectural projection in the air that begs for something, so the sign is actually complementary to.
See, that's the problem. They weren't, by code, they're not allowed to put it on that board. That's the whole thing.
That's the
Yeah,
problem.
That's the whole
But-
problem.
but-
Otherwise, it'd be like the other ones, and it's like, yeah, they're there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yep.
It's just the current sign's so big. It's a shame you can't take the current sign down and just have the police sign.
I'm inclined to say just
I-
the small one on Singing Oak, facing Singing Oaks, just on the one side.
The north,
Yeah.
north face.
I say we leave it.
I kind of agree with that, just the north.
Yeah. And I appreciate that they've significantly reduced it.
It's gonna be a problem as soon as that other lot is developed. They're gonna have. When I Chihuahua develops that lot, they're gonna be right back here with the same problem.
Yeah, but case by case, right?
That's right.
Yeah, we don't know what they're going to develop there.
So,
Proposal, that's all you pick for.
I heard
really
it.
low.
I heard low.
all right, so I'd say give them the one on the north side. Okay. As at the side, they have half what the other one was. The other one was huge.
Yeah.
Added white at night, and to the lot, and to the specifications that are in our ordinance.
Well, other than the location.
So I mean, the light.
Dark sky.
Oh, I
Dark
got you.
sky, dark sky.
So what do y'all think?
I'll support both signs.
So I'll make a motion that we support the sign as requested on the north side.
I'll second that.
Everybody, good vote, all in favor?
Aye.
I don't have that. Maybe.
to review it. Sorry.
Thought we were done with talking. I guess not.
I-
Long list.
Last one on the
Good evening, Council and Mayor. As the chair of the Chamber of Commerce, we do support our members, and we do, in this area, we do support the smaller franchises. We have very few large groups as a part of our membership base. We have over 600 members, and most of them are people that live in our area that have small businesses and, you know, are scraping and clawing, trying to succeed in our community up against some pretty big players that come and, you know, throw their weight around and spend thousands and thousands of dollars to go through efforts. So we applaud the efforts of the small businesses. We're here to support them. And so we appreciate those efforts and the investment they've made in our community. It seems like the action is already taken, but my recommendation is, knowing that a building will be built on the Dickey lot at some point, knowing that there will be a challenge at some point, to kick the can down the road, to build a single sign and to build a duplicate of that same sign at the time of building a sign is significantly less expensive for the applicant to build them in tandem, rather than wait 2 or 3 years or whenever that lot is built. They would most likely pull down that sign because it'll have faded, it'll not match. They'll then take that old sign down, put up 2 new signs at a greater expense to this mom and pop that trying to operate this business in a profit, in a time when they're in normal operations and not thinking about development. Right now, they're thinking about building this site out, they're at a lower capacity, they're building up their patient base. So they've got time to focus on these types of efforts. In 3 years, when they're at full capacity, it's going to be a bigger burden and a bigger challenge for them to go through this effort to get a variance, and not to count the $750 that it's going to take to reapply for this variance. So on behalf of the chamber and on behalf of our members, we would recommend support of both the north side and the south side on this blade, understanding all the circumstances how I got here. It just, Commissioner, Councilman Goss, your point, the blade does beckon for something there, and I think what they've done is tasteful, and I think what they've done is come back, listening to your comments at the previous meeting, to try to implement those. And a greater than 50% reduction is a significant reduction. One of my comments on the sign, when I looked at it, was, I think they've got the scale wrong because it doesn't look like it fits there because it's too small. But if they're happy with the smaller size, I think it's tasteful, and I think it would not be something that someone driving by would say, that's an ugly sign, why did they do that? Anyway, appreciate your time and your consideration.
So I make a motion that we give them the sign on the north side.
We need to do it again. Oh, I guess yeah, I'll second that.
Yeah. 1 second. So we'll put that to vote. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you again. Thank you so much for your reconsideration.
So the comments not related to this agenda item? Don't have anybody signed up to speak? Speakers on that? We're done with that? Nobody has anything else to add? Do you have anything else to add?
No.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, good.
We used to during when people were presenting. Can you come up here to the? So we can hear you.
This is someone off again. We used to, no, it's not working.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
We can hear you, Kimber.
We used to during the meetings, or when you were here before, when there was a speaker presenting, at the end of it, they would ask the public if they had any questions. And I noticed that doesn't seem to happen anymore. With something done to change that? Like, sometimes something pops up and maybe you aren't speaking, but you have a question that you would like answered. And I mean, there was no time that anybody asked the public if they would like to ask a question, because I had a question about the man presenting. He said that they were going to put the rainwater catchment system and required that. Well, I can see these little 1 acre lots with this huge water tank, storage tank in the back of every single yard. Well, that would be very unappealing. I mean, I'm not against water storage, and if they had 5 acres, they could put their storage tank, that'd be great. But I would have liked to have asked that question since it wasn't brought up by anybody. So I would just appreciate if, there could be a little spot in there where if you had a question, you would have an opportunity to address it. So.
Thank you, ma'am. Right, you know?
That's it.
We're done. 10:20.